What's up, everybody? What's going on? It's me, Dale Wheatley. How you guys doing? Angela's going to join us momentarily. She's just dealing with some things that she deals with. The things she deals with. How's everybody doing? Good to see you, Deanne and Bobo. Delicate. Splishness is here. Hello. How you guys doing? Guys doing all right? Lots of weird shit going on today, I'll tell you. But I totally forgot that the hearing was going on today. I don't know if you guys remembered.
What hearing?
I'll talk to you when you're on camera.
What hearing? You mean the settlement conference?
Or the settlement conference, I mean, yeah.
Because there was also a hearing. That was in Congress.
No, not the congressional hearing. We can talk about that if you want to. Angela's just moving all the obstacles now.
Sorry.
She's
I am usually a bit
almost there.
This is probably loud for people. I got this rattly chair situation here.
What's up, Bobo? Bobo's in here. Bobo's in there. All right, well, let me just...
So sorry.
I'm going to cut you in now. Here is Angela. What's going on? So yeah, it's been a sad day in the world today, really. I mean, just bad news. Like, my beef with Bijou Phillips.
Yes.
I've had a beef with that girl since I met her. And look, it's age is old, and so my beef with her is, as stale as it gets. But she's still not, my favorite person on the earth by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, for those who don't know, she was married to Danny Masterson, who is now serving 30 years to life in prison for for being convicted for serial rape convictions, like multiple rape convictions. So, anyway, she's in the hospital. She's on dialysis.
Bijou Phillips?
Bijou Phillips.
She's hospitalized?
She's hospitalized, last I read. And she's on dialysis. So those kids are like just going through it. And this is where I feel bad,
Does a person come out of the hospital when they're gone in the hospital on dialysis?
Well, I don't know how it works. I think you can get a dialysis machine in your house. I don't know I don't know. I can't answer that. I just know that she had been hospitalized on dialysis and that she put out a little shout out saying, I could use a kidney. She had already gotten one from a friend, I think. And it failed. So
wow. She's
in trouble. And I feel bad for her about it. I just think it's sad as fuck. And even though, I got these beefs with her, and I don't have a beef with those kids, and those kids are just going through it. They didn't choose any of this shit, as you know. We're all children of somebody.
Do you think that when you were rightfully scolding her very harshly for abusing your friend, Artie Robb,
spitting in Artie Robb's face?
Yes.
On New Year's Eve in front of everybody?
Him in front of his friends.
Yeah.
Do you think that you cursed her?
No. I don't believe I'm imbued with such powers now.
You recalled in your book that you told her, I wish nothing but the worst for you.
I did, yeah. I said those words. I felt that way.
Do you think it happened?
I felt that way, but I wasn't really saying that to curse her in the moment, and nor did I feel like I was. I was doing it to humiliate her. I was doing it to make her feel as close to as bad as RD felt after what she'd done to him.
Yeah, I mean, you were making a statement about yourself, clearly, not her. So.
What do you mean?
You said, I wish.
Yeah.
Nothing but the worst for you.
Right. And
I think that that's fair. To say to somebody when they're being absolutely heinous and abusing people. There's a lot of people in the public eye now that I do wish nothing but the worst for.
Yeah.
It's relatable.
Yeah.
And if there was somebody who I had an encounter with who deliberately tried to humiliate my closest friend in life, I would absolutely use venomous language like that.
Yeah, I had a big problem with it. I would to this day, obviously. I mean, you don't spit in someone's face under any circumstances. Mm-hmm. If, I I was starting to like think, are there? And because there's some people who like could certainly bring up the urge, like Donald Trump, like sitting across from him, I'd be like, I want to do something.
I saw a really, really incredible photograph today from inside the congressional hearing room where Pam Bondi is testifying and obstructing. It's like we forget that when somebody like the Attorney General comes before Congress, the purpose of that hearing is for the person who is the head of a department, a governmental office, to share with the legislative body what their work is.
Yeah.
Like, because they're different branches of the government. So they're supposed to be really forthright. They're supposed to be like, okay, I'm here to inform you. We're going to do a little presentation where I tell you what work we're doing over here in this other building, But that she was really obstructive is incredible. But the photograph that I saw today was they had the survivors all seated behind her, the Epstein survivors. And they had them stand up, and by a show of hands, how many of them had been interviewed by the DOJ since they had made their statements to the FBI and about what they'd witnessed. And all of them raised their hands saying that they had not. And I was just really struck by like, okay, so this lady is obstructing an investigation and being really, really indignant and shitty about it.
I think you're phrasing it wrong. I think what you mean to say is that Pam Bondi is a part of a grand cover-up protecting pedophiles.
A criminal conspiracy.
Yeah, she is protecting the Attorney General of the United States of America.
Right.
Is openly protecting billionaire pedophiles, people with money.
Right.
This is why we're lost. The oligarch is in control here, and they're monsters. They're absolute monsters. Yeah. The oligarchy. So, and this is what we're living in. This is what we're living with in America and in other parts of the world. We're living under an oligarchy. The oligarchy is absolutely lawless and unaccountable.
This is the thing too, is like the photograph was so impactful because there's Pam Bondi in the foreground and there's all these survivors standing up with their hands up to be counted, and they're all looking at her like with fucking daggers. Well, and I just don't know how you don't feel that when you're in a room,
Yeah.
I don't know how somebody like Pam Bondi functions,
One of the victims tweeted that she was raped by Elon Musk and basically the entire Musk family.
Yeah, his brother was apparently involved. There's a very strange email between Elon Musk's brother. He has an interesting name. I can't remember it. Anyway, it's basically a love note to Jeffrey Epstein. It's very strange. Like they had a romantic relationship. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Yeah.
So strange. This whole thing is so strange. Yeah. I don't want to know anything about any of these people.
Yeah, no, it's like it was better living on the other side of the curtain, with it drawn. It really was. I mean, it's horrible. You wake up every day and you're mortified, and part of what's so scary is the total the blatant disregard for justice. Like there's no law. These people follow no laws. They don't follow any laws. They're raping children. They're doing that. I mean, it would be a fool to not believe that these women were indeed treated the way they say they were.
Do you worry about your phrasing?
Why? Because of the algorithm?
Yeah. Well,
it hates us already. So
also, like, I wonder whether it's harsh for people to hear.
What is the other word? We want to say grape.
I would say abuse is what I would say.
Okay.
Abusing children is what I would say, because it's a little bit less of a gut punch. But, obviously I'm not trying to curtail how you speak about horrors.
Yeah.
It doesn't make them any better.
Well, anyway, listen, man. It's sad, bro. It's sad. It's just, we just live in this really weird world, and yeah, we have to find a way to keep smiling through it somehow.
This is the process of awakening. I see it so clearly. It's like I had a friend once who was all tangled up. He had a really horrible childhood. It was full of neglect, and his parents were always at odds with each other and using him to pit against each other. It was like really horrible situation. His father was murdered and like left in a field to die, like alone. His mother was like really abusive, like narcissistic abuse, blaming him for everything. Mm-hmm. It was really awful. So as an adult, he went to therapy. he like went and was like full in, like every day, this is my thing. I'm going to heal because I'm sick of carrying around all this baggage. He said for the first year in therapy, he cried every single day. And he was like functioning fine. He went to therapy. And before he went to therapy, he was functioning fine. He was just like, this sucks. This is a dark cloud. I'm going to fix this. But he said that in the first year, he cried every single day. It was like a cathartic opening up inside of him. He cracked him open painfully.
Yeah.
So that all of this material could just like ooze out that he had to just deal with and sort through the muck. But then after the year, he was like, okay, I feel better. Like I got my feet on the ground. I can understand all of this stuff. It took a whole year for him to sort through it. I feel like this is what we're collectively doing right now. I feel like all of this got cracked open. This had been going on for decades behind a curtain, and we're seeing it now. And that is the first step to exposing it to the light and sorting through it and getting through all the fucking muck until we can heal from it, you know? Like I see it very similar to my friend's experience. I just feel like this is a process.
Hopefully Lee is here.
Welcome, Lee.
Deanne is here.
So
Fell bombing is here.
Sometimes you segue into
Cosmic Urgency is here.
Sometimes you segue into these greetings so fast that I'm still thinking about the last thing that we spoke about. And so I wonder whether I'm like, I have like dead face. You're greeting people and I'm like, oh. So I don't want anybody to take it personally. I just don't change rails as fast as Dale does, you know?
I gotta keep this thing moving.
Yeah, I know. You do. You do a great job.
Stacy's here, our scientist, Hanada, all the usuals. The crew is here, man. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's nice.
Love hanging out with you guys. Good to see you guys as always. Despite the darkness, the dark cloud that hangs over all of us.
Well, we
today.
have other things we wanted to talk about today, right? Am I still reading from this document?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. So we'll
get
do
to
that later.
James Vanderbeek is dead. He was 48 years old, according to TMZ.
Did you look up his IMDb?
It's the saddest fucking thing. It's just the saddest fucking thing, bro. And you know, one of the saddest things about it is that he talked about it. He talked about his disease, which was colorectal cancer, and he said that, you know, he ate properly and he did all this stuff, and it's just a frightening kind of message to send to people, because I don't know that he did, and by that I mean, like, were you eating processed food? Like, were you doing that? Like, were you eating a lot of processed food? Because I think this is one of the big, you know, this is the lung cancer of these generations. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is colorectal cancer coming from really poor eating habits? And I'm not saying that he did or he didn't and whatever. It's just, it's so frightening that a man his age, would go down. His family, somebody for his family put up a GoFundMe. They're trying to raise $500,000. There's the other, like, grim reality. I mean, this guy was a very successful actor by all accounts, by all, standards. I mean, he was a lead on a hit show. You can't really ask for much. It was a network show on top of that. And network shows are fucking money. Like, they're just straight money. Mm-hmm. And I don't get the impression that James Vanderbeek was a person who squandered his wealth. Maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe he went fucking on a poker binge. I have no idea. But that these guys are left to raise money. He has a fucking brood of children, too. I mean, it is sad. He leaves.
That's a good way to put it. There's so many.
He leaves like 5 or 6 kids. I can't even remember. He's survived by so many kids, and it's just heartbreaking. It really is. It's like a weird thing to recognize.
What's up?
I want to just make sure that I don't want people to hear the desktop, because there might be an autoplay of a Dawson's Creek episode or something.
Oh, I thought something was crawling up your leg or something. The way you look down.
No, because I moved the soundboard here so that I can be more attentive to it on the one hand, and then on the other hand also just clear up my desktop. But I won't bore you with such things. Anyway, it's weird. It's sad. I never knew the guy. I saw him around, but I never met the guy beyond, like, being in the same room with him. I don't even know that I talked to him, actually. Mm-hmm. And he was married at one point to Heather McComb. People who have enjoyed Don's Plum might recognize her as Constance.
Yeah.
So he was married to her for a minute. They divorced. And I think that might have been where some of that money went, actually.
Oh. Oh.
I think she might have walked away with some dough. Let's see. Heather McComb, James Vanderbeek, divorce
You'd be able to find that on the online?
settlement or divorce. I'll just put divorce.
You'll get returns like, yes, they were divorced.
Yeah, she was divorced. They were divorced. Let's see, how much money did Heather get? Anyway, she's having a bad day.
Delicate said, I didn't even know that Dawson was sick. A lot of people I know are sad about this. I never saw that show. I never followed his career. I know a lot of people my age did, though. It's strange how fast it happened. Like, he got sick and then kablooey. It's probably insensitive.
Yeah. Heather McComb received a spousal support of $7,700 a month for 2 years following their divorce.
It's not a big deal.
That's not so bad. She didn't take him to the cleaners. What is that? That's 150 grand.
I think probably raising 5 children in America will probably deplete your funds pretty fast.
Yeah, and Vanderbeek kept the house and the residuals and no children because there were no children involved. So she just walked away with a little bit of money. He kept the house. So it wasn't nasty. I'm glad because Heather's pissed me off before, and it would have been really upset at her right now if she took him to the cleaners.
You say take them to the cleaners, but it's not unreasonable for somebody to, if you're partnered with somebody who helps you excel in your career,
Yeah.
and then you break up, it doesn't seem unreasonable for me to be like, okay, you.
Well,
get
Vanderbeek had
a part of
already
that.
succeeded.
Yeah.
At that point, Dawson Creeks was preceded
I know.
her.
I'm not talking about their relationship specifically.
I don't think she took him to the cleaners. That's my point.
Took him to the cleaners.
Yeah, I use the term. I'm using the term that it's a vernacular. It's the vernacular for it. It's one of them. It's when people are whomever it could be. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a woman. It could be a man. It could be a spouse who is trying to take more than they deserve from the pie. And
Yes,
she
but
probably
more
didn't
than-
since he got the house.
More than they deserve is interesting to me because it's like, if you split, then the debts that you make while you're married should be divided, and the money that you earn while you're married should be divided. I just don't feel like I feel like there's negotiation, but like it doesn't seem like it's.
We've
unreasonable.
digressed from the story, which is that James Vanderbeek has passed.
That's true.
And that he's leaving a bunch of children behind. And it's sad as fuck. And it's a really good reminder, I think, that people have to know in their 40s, in America in particular, but, check your local listings. But colon cancer is a really, really big problem in America and in millennials right now.
Is it because the standard American diet is garbage?
It's got to be. I mean, what else can it be? It's not a fucking it's not a magical time. I mean, there's no other correlation other than diet and preservatives.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, it could be like industrial poisons. Maybe, I don't know. I know that they say that there's a higher
Sounds
risk.
like the FDA isn't doing their job.
I don't know what job they're doing.
Well, the job was to protect us from
But like,
bad food.
I don't know.
So anyway, so James Vanderbeek, rest in peace. I hope his family can get on with it. I wasn't a Dawson Creeks fan. I never really watched those kinds of shows.
Yeah, like the love triangle, young people trying to fall in love.
I never watched even like the 90210s.
Yeah, me neither.
None of that was for me. There was a bunch like Melrose Place, obviously. There was a couple of them. What was the one that My So-Called Life? I guess that was called.
Yes, I was constantly being told about that because I had her same haircut and hair color
Is that
in high
Claire?
school. Yes.
Claire.
So people were like, "Oh my God, have you seen it? She looks just like her." I never saw it once because those like teen dramas were just never appealing to me.
When I showed up to Denmark, I had the same haircut, which was a buzz, like a very short cut with and I also, like you, have a widow's peak. It's not so much there anymore, but back in the day, I had a widow's peak. Can't see it on there either. Anyway, I looked a lot like Lars, you know, like, or that I was like emulating him. I think there were these people, and I'm like, I didn't know what Lars looked like before I got there.
Oh yeah,
like,
of course not. No, you didn't have the internet.
Yeah, I didn't fucking have anything like that. I was
Right.
just like, I just got there, and then there was Lars, and I was like, oh, look at us. He even had the same color code as I had.
Amazing.
So we just kind of like it was like
You were
like Justin
supposed to stay
Baldoni.
there, dude.
It was like Justin Baldoni and fucking and Blake Lively today showing up with the colors.
Yes. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
So they both. I want you to play this video today. Did you cue it up? You don't even have to have the sound because it's just a bunch of people barking at them and they're not making a comment whatsoever. So you could just mute it. But Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni arrived in court today for their settlement agreement. I mean, their settlement conference, not agreement. Apparently, they didn't reach an agreement, according to Brian Friedman, who is such a mouthpiece. I mean, nobody really needs to know the details, but he went and made sure everybody knew that they didn't reach an agreement today. But they were in there all day. But I just thought it was so interesting. Are you cueing it?
Yeah, I'm getting on it. Cosmic Urgency dropped some facts. He said my so-called life is a masterpiece, which I've heard that before.
I've heard that too.
I would totally watch it just because I'm in a different place anyway as a person than I was back then. Back then I just had no time for that. I was totally about feature films and so on and so forth, whatever. But he also says it's because her name was Angela. Angela.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Makes
Why'd you say
sense.
Claire? Did you think her name was Claire? Because
Her
I
name-
recalled that too. Was Claire somebody else?
No, Claire Danes is who
Claire
played it.
Danes, of course. Sorry. That's why. Her name was Angela, and I had the same hair as her, and I just fucking never heard the end of it. I was like, yes, I'm aware. No, I haven't seen the show.
How come they don't give you like controls? Oh, okay. Dicks.
Anyway, so are you through with the chat? Because I want to get back to this topic.
I'm putting your videos on that you asked me
Okay,
for.
cool. Yeah, so I just thought it would have been really cute that they didn't coordinate, but ended up wearing basically the same outfit to court today. Like pink around the neck, right? Justin Baldoni wore a long scarf and Blake Lively wore a collared pink shirt. And then their coats were like the same hue of like gray green. It was really amazing that they were like color coordinated. It would have been really cute if they weren't like, you know, at each other's throats. Like if they didn't have venomous hatred towards each other. I just thought it was a really interesting coincidence.
Oops. Sorry. I killed your mic on that last word when she said coincidence at the end there. All right. Yeah, so this is the video that Angela was talking about. Here it is. There she is. Woman of the hour. Woman who threw her career away because she couldn't handle it. Look at these guys.
Justin right here.
Dressed together. Look at that.
Justin.
Here's Steve now. This is Steve Seraph. Look at Steve. Watch this. Look at this. Look at this shit. Look at him put his arm. Look at they're holding hands, bro. Look at this. And then his back is he just turns. Look at this fucking birds of a feather here. Look at this guy. Complete total disregard for Emily.
He basically he pulls a like, may I have this dance with Justin Baldoni and completely physically blocks Emily
Is that
Baldoni's
weird
path.
or what?
It is the fucking strangest thing. I don't know why
Justin right
you
here.
would. It's the most.
Justin,
It's the strangest thing I've ever seen somebody do. Why would you not go around to the other side of him where he doesn't have another entire human being attached to his arm?
Right.
Why would you not go around Emily Baldoni and embrace them both and lead them both in? Since that's
I want
what
to
he's
say
attempting
something
to do,
nice
is
about
be
Dave.
supportive. I don't understand this behavior. Did you pull up
Doing it now.
the other angle? I just want to look at Steve Sarowitz do this again and again. It's just the fucking weirdest. I also thought it was interesting how Justin Baldoni showed up. He hadn't shaven, and he was wearing a
Shaved?
T-shirt.
Hadn't shaved. Hadn't shaven.
Is that what I said?
You said hadn't shaven. I'm not sure if that's. I think that might be illegal.
It felt right when I said it. Was it wrong?
I hadn't heard it put that way before. Here's the new one.
That's wrong. I don't want to be right.
Here's the other one. Justin, you're so beautiful. I can't stand it. You're like a ray of light.
Justin, how you doing, man?
Why do you hold her hand when you could hold my hand? Hey, look at Steve Sarowitz. Look at you. You're such a beautiful person, Justin. I love you so much.
He just straight up blocks Emily Baldoni
Look
out.
at the fucking complete disregard. Yeah, look at somebody said in chat that
Unbelievable.
Emily looked like what did they say?
A billionaire's wife.
A billionaire's wife. She does. Look at her. She
Living in
looks
Upper East Side.
living in the Upper East Side. Look at her. Well, dude, they are. They live in absolute luxury.
Yes.
They are millionaires. They're worth a great deal of money.
have
And that
often-
billionaire right there, look at the love he has for that guy. And he doesn't give a shit about her.
No.
Because that guy wants to sleep with that guy or something. Or he wants to like fucking get super cuddly, bro. Like he wants to be like, look, I'm not gay, but I
disrespect.
have a different feeling for you than I've had for any other man. Like that is
Can't believe it.
that's some fucking love right there. That, you know, like look at this. They're holding hands right now. Look at this, a couple frames forward. Oh, god damn it. Is this the wrong one now? No, this is
It's the strangest.
I really am in shock that he has it makes him an awful person. Like he's always been an awful person to me. But to have complete and total disregard for a person standing right fucking next to you
He
just...
blocked her, physically blocked her path, straight path inside.
I cannot believe it.
And wanted to embrace her husband and like blocked her out, like straight up, like he's mine, sweetie, step aside type shit. Like if
Absolutely
you
crazy.
didn't know these people and the narrative was that tall bald man is in love with this other man
Right.
and they're going into divorce proceedings where he's hoping to, you know, to get him for himself, I would believe it. Or whatever, you know.
Absolutely crazy to me.
Pretty weird. Super strange behavior.
So today they're in the settlement conference, and they could still be in it. I haven't heard that it's broke. We went to our conference probably around the same time as they went to theirs, that they arrived, which is probably before noon.
Oh yeah. Okay. So tell me everything about your settlement conference with Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, and you said a bunch of your other friends were
there
there,
were
even
two.
though they
We
weren't
went-
party to the case.
We had two. One was with a mediator,
Okay.
and then which is not what they would have had today.
Today they would have been face to face.
Today would have been face to face across the table. Which
you
that
serious?
was our first one. We didn't do it at a courthouse. We did it at because it wasn't this kind of a thing.
Dale, just think how Baldoni like took up all of his prayer group's time last night.
Can you imagine?
I'm gonna meet her face to face for the first time since my lawsuits got
Guys, I'm going to need you
Thrown
to
out of
start
court.
praying today through tomorrow. And if you could refrain from sleeping, that'd be great because I'm going to need the full power of your love for me and my love for me, our love for me.
Yeah.
So I can tell you that, I can tell you from my experience that it's just an absolutely, it's like waiting at the DMV the whole time.
When you went in, did you know that you were expected to settle?
Both times there was a lot of pressure coming from our attorneys, which we weren't paying
That's why.
to settle the
So
case.
Blake Lively, I think, went in not expecting to settle.
Full guns like this is full guns loaded is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Here's what I think is the only way this case settles. Do you remember the letter that they wrote that they said, hey, Baldoni signed this and we'll be good? It'll be a new version of that.
Yeah, it was a draft statement that you're referring to, the one where they were like, hey, everybody's freaking out about how we weren't appearing together on the red carpet. So if you could just clarify and make public whatever everybody knows behind the scenes to
That
be
we
true.
made some mistakes and so on. It was like, getting him to own up to the things that he had done and that they had done. And he refused. And in fact, the lovely Emily Baldoni that we see here, they're supporting her devout husband. She apparently, they had a conversation. She and Justin had a conversation regarding the letter. And Emily said, go to war, according to Justin.
According to
Baldoni.
Justin. And I don't believe his version.
According to Justin Baldoni, it was,
I don't believe that he wouldn't put words in her mouth for a minute.
we don't negotiate with terrorists was probably somebody else's reaction from their same group. So anyway, you get in there and in this case, we met. Ours didn't last too long because I almost got into a physical altercation with Tobey Maguire in mind. In the face to face.
Were you guys across a table from each other?
We were.
So you were going to leap over the table?
Sort of.
Were you going to crawl over the table?
Well,
Were you going to scramble at him like a fucking...
no, he came at me.
like a horror movie?
He came at me.
He did?
Yeah.
Did he try to get over the table?
He tried to get around the table.
Around the side of the table?
Around the table.
So
The boardroom's
dramatic.
across the room, kind of like this room. And then he was on that side and he came around it.
You described it like this room as if anybody could see it.
I'm telling you, you're there. You're a witness.
Dale's at a big table.
And then what happened was I said, because Tobey Maguire knew, like everybody else did, that Don's Plum was a feature film when he returned for his second shoot. Everybody knew it. There was no secret. Nobody fucking, come on. We're going to live with these guys keeping that kind of a fake fucking secret. Not only did Tobey know, though, but prior to him even showing up, he and his manager both saw a 72-minute version of the fucking movie.
Yes.
Just days after we finished shooting that second
Which
shoot.
is feature length.
Which is feature length already. So it's just absolutely fucking incredible, everything that they're saying about that. And so when we were in the settlement conference, I said, if I betrayed Leonardo DiCaprio, then you fucking betrayed him too. It can't be both ways. You can't call me a betrayer of him and not you when you showed up and fucking shot the fucking movie too, pal. Which, of course, Leo knew everything.
And like classic abuser, manipulator,
He
fucking Darvo tactics.
exploded.
What he had to do was make a big show to completely erase in everyone's mind what they just heard you say.
He went
So he had to
nuclear.
do like a giant, big, flashy show.
He comes running around the table. I'm down, by the way. Down. I'm like, okay, great. Honestly, I might have been put away for life in that situation. Like, I don't know that I wouldn't have just gone completely, left my body and went into an absolute complete rage.
Where you like come to and you've got like his eyeball in your hand.
Right. Where we're just, everybody's covered in blood. And I'm like, what happened? And then I look down and I'm like, who's that? But we lawyers piled in. Like, it was just this big chaotic moment. We got separated. Well, he got pulled out of the room by the lawyers.
By the scruff,
Yeah.
by his ear.
And then Leo and everybody just pushing him out of the room. Kevin Connolly. At that conference was DiCaprio, Maguire, Connolly, Bloom, Supley, myself, and Artie Rao.
Why were all your friends there?
Don't fucking ask me. They had nothing to goddamn do with it. With the dispute. They were there to fucking support them and to, give them the fucking edge.
why did anybody think that having them all there would make you guys feel any better? You had to come together, It's weird.
But it was extremely tense. I don't know. I can already relate to the weirdness between them in the same room because for me, the last time I had seen Leo was before Titanic released. Last time I saw him was before Titanic had released. And then so at this point, Titanic had already been out and been a massive success. It was probably like April or May of 97. Something like, yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe? No, 98. I don't know. 97. So, it was like April or May. And he had been, he was, whatever his movie released in. I think it released in late 97. So it would have been into 98. Yeah, it would have been in 98. So it was April, May of 98. And he was just so weird. Like
the fame got
the
to
success got to him in like a way, like, it seems like almost like a typical thing to say that, like, oh my God, success went to his head. Like, it just kind of seems like something that a normal person would jump to, maybe out of envy, whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it feels cheap coming out of my mouth. Except that Leonardo DiCaprio was not the same guy. Not the same guy. He began that conversation saying, I know things have changed since Titanic. And I was like, what?
What's changed?
What? Like, I get that you're making a bunch more money than you were. I get that you're fucking bigger than fucking Elvis Presley is or was. But what else? Because that's got nothing to do with this, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
this is a separate situation.
Yeah, you're still being an asshole who needs to be held accountable for the wrongdoing.
Our relationship is still what it is and what it was. None of that's going to change. It's very fucking strange. And I'm, in explaining it to you today, I can't give you the vibe, the energy, and something that was wild about Leonardo DiCaprio, and this is what you're going to have with these two people in the same room, is that he is so omnipresent in a room, like he takes up the whole fucking room. He walks into the room and takes up the whole room. And he doesn't do it with...
He has like a magnetism?
It's just magnetism. It's just big. He's just so large in a room. He was from the first day I met him. I could feel that dude, and if I could feel him arrive at a party.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's so weird. He's got I think Hollywood's filled with these people and these really high achiever levels. Like,
it's wild.
The top dogs are all just like, they have this magnetic presence. It's almost like some sort of fucking weird mysticism or something.
It's kind of enviable. I mean, just because it was like, everybody's head turns and...
It's crazy.
Yeah. So it was that energy, that new energy of him, right? Which I felt was spoiled, right? And that's what filled the room.
So they spent the entire day, these two people, Baldoni and Lively?
Are spending, as far as I know.
No. They've left.
They have? Are you sure?
They've left, and there was no, according to Friedman, there was no settlement. I don't know if they're supposed to come back tomorrow, but
no, they won't. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
And that's what we predicted.
That's a wrap.
Because Blake Lively's not interested.
No, it's this double barrels of this, bro. You got to stand up in front of the world and say, everything she said is true. You have to stand up in front of the world and say, everything she said is true. And I've got to do a better job of becoming the kind of person that I've always tried to be in front of you, or whatever, but it was me, not her. That's the only way that this is going to
I'm so fascinated, though. It's such a shame that we can't find out what was being offered. Because if Baldoni's side is interested in settling,
yeah,
what were they offering her that she was not accepting?
Baldoni wouldn't have offered anything. Well, okay, here's what I could have imagined coming out of Baldoni's side, but I just can't even imagine it because they're all, but I mean, if there was anything at all, it would be some kind of like very generic, like the two parties have decided to put their differences behind them.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And while neither side was able to resolve the matter to their liking, they feel it's best at this time to move on from this dispute and continue with their respective careers and lives. Some kind of like, it would have been as neutral and as, unfulfilling as that.
Trying to pay her? Like, if we give you this much money, can we call it?
No, there would never, there would be no money involved in this. There's no way they would have ever offered a dime. Never.
Okay.
Maybe Sarahwitz in the room. Like Sarahwitz might have been sitting in the room because you go to separate rooms and you kind of figure your position out.
Oh, so they're not facing each other at a board?
If it gets to negotiations. But if it's not negotiations and it's a settlement conference, then in a settlement conference, my understanding of a settlement conference, and I don't know how official mine was in terms of like it following a protocol.
Yeah, fucking Kevin Connolly doesn't belong there.
But, neither does Emily, Baldoni.
Well, I didn't know whether she was actually attending,
Was she sitting in the fucking hall?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, can I get another one of them instant coffees? That'd be great. A little more of that powdered milk.
Yeah, why not?
More powdered milk. That'd be great. So, anyway.
Hanging out with the paralegals?
If they got to negotiations, then they would likely separate. And then they would mediate that between, or just the lawyers would mediate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they're not going to, but my guess is that this was a normal settlement. And the normal settlement or conference, or I call it normal. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. If it was like mine, then we sat in the same room and we had a discussion. Listen, I actually, and you never know, this might make it into the second edition, which I'm going to write live for people on Patreon.
Links in the description.
But where was I? I blew my own fucking thing.
You said, I don't know this part of the story.
Go ahead.
Because you haven't written it.
Oh, so what I'm saying is that, and I'm going to rewrite the scene, but, what I meant to say is I may add this to the new edition. I don't know. And I'm not going to tell the story here because it's super sensitive. But there were things said in that conference.
Oh.
In my settlement conference with Leonardo DiCaprio that were so fucking appalling.
To you.
To anyone, to anybody with any decent human being, like MAGA level bad coming out of Leo's mouth. MAGA bad. Like really, 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 really bad. Mm-hmm. Now, when I say really, really, really bad, we're living in today's world where there's literally a rapist in the fucking White House. Literally.
But you can't move the Overton window. You cannot let them do that. You can't let them fucking make everything fucking normal, right? You can't.
Exactly,
If
you
it was
can't.
appalling then, it's appalling now,
Yeah,
and we can live by that.
True. So anyway, so yeah, that's the kind of thing you can expect if there's money. Like, so Sarah Woods, if they're sitting in all the same room, which they probably wouldn't do, because if they're sitting all in the same room, then that would mean that well, if they were sitting all in the same room, Sarowitz might put out like that. Is there a number? He might do the, like the billionaire question. What's the number?
Well,
what do you mean, what's the number? Everyone has a number.
Yeah, right.
What's your number?
Do you remember in the text messages where Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath are talking about Steve Sarowitz and what he knows and what he doesn't know? And then Jamie said that Steve Sarowitz said, well, let me come down to set. Let me come down and have a little sit down with Blake Lively and remind her whose money this is.
Yeah.
Because he absolutely does think of everything
now,
in terms of money. She's like, okay, I'll just take that. I just think it's really rich that they said that Baldoni wants to know that she can be buried. And I love the idea of her. I don't know if this is true, of course, but I love the idea of her going in there and being like, okay, well, I want to see if he can be buried. Little eye for the eye. An eye for an eye doesn't seem, unreasonable.
Yeah, if there was a number, like maybe because if she wants to see him buried or whatever, like maybe the number is like, yeah, I got a number for you. It's $500 million.
Yeah, and give me that house.
Give me $500 million. I saw the Ojai property up. I really like that place. I'll take it.
As a gift.
You can just go ahead and sign that over right now. You have any offers yet? No? Yeah. Well, refuse them. I'm going to take the house. No, I mean, there is no money. There is no money enough. There's just not. There's just not enough money for her to. There's no money he's willing to let go of. There's no way. This is not a financial issue.
It's not about money. No,
this
that's
is not
the
financial, and she doesn't have financial. I mean, they're all greedy, right? She's making her Betty Boos, and everybody's greedy.
No,
but there's never enough money for these fucking people.
A person like Blake
fucking
Lively.
People retire on fucking 401ks that these guys get paid in a goddamn month.
Here's the thing: is I don't know her, obviously. But you can look at her astrology chart, and it screams someone who is very principled and very loyal to their personal values.
You're right.
There's nothing about her astrology chart that says that she's going to compromise what she feels like is right in order to just move on or ignore or whatever. I love that she's taking it all the way, because fuck them. It's inspiring. What are you doing?
I'm looking at the chat, catching some things. Cosmic said that Toby has a 19-year-old girlfriend. Allegedly, people were criticizing for him. Allegedly 19, and people were criticizing him for it. And she was at the Super Bowl with him. Well, I mean, it's just, to me, that's just a lonely life. Like,
are they sure that's not his daughter? That he didn't take his daughter to the Super Bowl?
I think he's with like a real young girl right now. Yeah. I don't know who it is, but there was
Isn't that his daughter's
There was a
age?
video that was on TMZ that I never brought up, but on TMZ they had this video where he had to like break into his own property because his fucking security code.
I know, and they said
failed.
that there was a young woman with him, and I was like,
extremely
maybe
young.
that was his kid.
No, that wasn't his kid. I saw the video. He wasn't hopping over the fence with his kid at 1 a.m. No, not at all.
Because I know that I saw on social media that she just, all of these celebrity children are on social media. So she was just celebrating her 18th birthday a little while
TMZ
ago.
knows who the daughter is, for one.
Ruby Sweetheart, she's 19.
Yeah.
I don't believe that he has a 19-year-old girlfriend.
Well, the girl that he
if
was
he has
with,
a 19-year-old daughter.
the girl that he was with in the video looked certainly in her early 20s at the highest. Definitely somebody who would be hanging out with his daughter for sure.
Well, I don't know. I don't believe that. That's weird.
Is this because you just want to refuse to believe something, or is it because you have reason to not believe
No,
it?
because I don't believe that a celebrity would make such a poor choice publicly. I don't think for a second that they wouldn't date a 19-year-old.
Leonardo DiCaprio's been doing it his whole fucking middle age.
Okay, I know. I'm not saying that he wouldn't date a 19-year-old, but to take a 19-year-old date to the Super Bowl, where he's for sure going to be photographed.
Let's see.
I think that's really fucking dumb.
It might be. Well, I mean, are you trying to give them are you trying to give him some credit that he doesn't?
Yeah,
deserve?
I think he's a lot more strategic and worried about his public image than that. You know, I mean, that's part of the reason why he put you through all the pain he put you through, right? Fucking jerk. Breaking news, this just dropped on Baldoni Files. No deal. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni settlement talks flounder as trial looms.
At Super Bowl 60 in February 2026, 50-year-old actor Tobey Maguire was spotted with 20-year-old model and influencer Mishka Silva.
So
the pair were seen together
in
a VIP box, sparking significant social media attention and debate due to their 30-year gap, or also known as her being the same fucking age as his fucking daughter. Silva later shared images of the event on her Instagram stories. If Toby's your type, man, listen, bro. When that guy was not famous, like he couldn't land a girl, bro. He couldn't.
Well, have you ever seen a full body? I mean, I'm asking you. You knew him. Never mind. But every time I've seen a full body image of him, like from the paparazzi, where you can see his whole body,
yeah,
I'm stunned by how strange his proportions are.
Yeah,
and I know it's really like lowbrow to fucking body shame somebody,
yeah.
But the guy is fucking weird. Like I don't even know why he got cast as Spider-Man, because you can't have like a weird body and be like a spandex superhero.
I have like, I get like tension. Like I see him.
Yes.
And if you felt my hands, they're sweating.
I mean, it makes sense.
I have PTSD from Tobey fucking Maguire.
He interrogated
I wrote the
you.
scene where where I dropped to my fucking knee because I was surrounded by him in Best Buy.
Yeah, but also he fucking interrogated you and kept you up. That's torture. Those are literally torture tactics. To sleep deprive you and bark questions at you constantly. Keeping you from sleeping. That's fucked up.
I bet you Toby was just hanging out with her and saying, "You should really get to know my daughter. I think you guys really get along well. She has one of my credit cards. You guys can do whatever you want." Whatever. I fucking hate Tobey Maguire. Fuck that guy. I actually do hate him. I want the world to know that hatred is how I feel. I try to like not be hateful. I'm hateful.
Yeah, you can be hateful. I think that's fair.
By the way, you know what's
he deliberately ruined your life. In his depositions, he's gleeful about it, bro. He's fucking bragging about all the ways in which he destroyed your reputation and your business arrangements in Hollywood. It's really fucked up. He should have never gotten away with it. I don't feel like anybody should be allowed to get away with this behavior. He should be fucking expelled from his actors union for the fucking behavior of like killing all of his peers' work in Don's Plum. You know, I just feel like there should have been consequences. You don't get to behave like that. Get away with it.
Fuck Tobey Maguire. That's what I say about that. Manderly is here.
Hello.
What's going on? So that's what you can expect in these settlement conferences. I'm so glad. Of course, I knew they weren't going to settle. I mean, everyone must have known that. There was somebody, I think some lawyer came out with some fucking idea. Man, there's just people who just fucking sell out, I think. Because I don't know how a lawyer who has who has a legitimate like degree in law and is practicing could look at this case and not see the glaring imbalance of facts in favor of. We've read Ange Giannetti. We're going to finish. Who's this?
Josh Greenstein.
We've read Baldoni. We've read Lively.
Mm-hmm.
We've read
Liz Talbot, the intimacy coordinator.
We've read Isabella.
Yes, Isabella Ferrer. Yeah.
Ferrer. We read hers. We've read a shit ton. We've read many of the excerpts coming out of. We've read what's her name? We've read Jenny Slate. We've read Alex Sachs. So we've read a boatload of these fucking depositions so far. And I just don't am I biased? Am I biased? I guess maybe I don't see my bias blurring these facts in any way or skewing these facts in any way. You have Jenny Slate saying what she said. You have Justin Baldoni saying what he said.
Yeah.
You have him very obviously and blatantly lying about his texts to his publicists, which blatantly show retaliation and instruction for retaliation to his publicists. I just think it's a fucking slam dunk. I think he's fucked.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Oh, I didn't know this, Scientist. Thanks for posting this. Baldoni will be back in court tomorrow for the settlement conference with the Stephanie Jones lawsuit.
Oh, so that comes tomorrow. Yeah. So he is going back tomorrow.
So he lost this one. I bet that prayer group's going to be exhausted.
They're 100% not going to settle either. There's no fucking way they
Stephanie
fucking
Jones
settle.
is not going to fucking settle
no
this.
No way, bro. You're going to go down, dude. You fucking ruined everybody's life because you couldn't get over the fact that people were critical of you after you fucking put this fucking persona out of being, the savior to fucking the male feminist.
Felpomling said, you two need to invite Julie, the Canadian woman. Recap with Julie.
Yeah.
You like her.
I love her.
To do a cast with you. She has a great grasp on the case, rivaling your own. I'm sure she has a better grasp of the case. I'm sure it rivals our own. But I actually thought it would be really great during trial coverage if we had... I've been collecting names of pro-lively content creators that are helping explain this case, and I thought it would be really neat if we figured out a way to get people to call in.
I feel shitty asking people to come on to our show, and this isn't any slight to you guys. I love you guys so much, but I just don't feel like I'm offering them much exposure.
Oh yeah, but
like I know that you guys would love it, and we would love it.
Well, they'll turn it down if they don't think that that's important. I mean, if they think that that's important, but I think that
DK Astrologer.
I was just gonna say, I think it would be really fun to just go on to somebody else's little show and have a talk with people who are like-minded. So much of what we do out in the
I'll reach out to her
in the Wild West of the internet is argue with people who don't agree, and so it might be kind of nice to make a little space for people who do.
Something I wanted to do was I wanted to invite when the trial goes down.
Right.
I want to be able to. I want to get I'm going to try to reach out to these guys. Now would be the time. Just reach out to them and then just bring them on the show. I'm trying to get
Why would now be the time?
By the way, I got some fucking interesting news.
Okay, but hold that. Why would now be the time?
Well, just to prepare and plan.
Oh, you don't mean bringing them on now?
No, I'm saying
I thought it would be fun during the trial.
Approaching them and asking them if they'd like to come on during the trial. And we can talk about specific, we look at the trial schedule because the trial will have a schedule. We'll know who's going when. We're going to have plenty to work with in terms of preparing for the trial. So anyway, I just thought it would be fun to probably to invite some people Ex-Patriarchy, and I've talked before. I'll see if I'll reach out to him, see if he's in.
That'd be great.
I would love to get Gavel on, see if they'll come on. They were so great to me, and they're really lovely. Yeah,
go do your own research too. It'd be nice to have her on.
Yep, she's great. I love her. I'm sure she'll come on because she owes me one. No, she doesn't.
There was another, I can't remember, but you did an interview with other people. I can't recall their username. Do you remember?
No.
Okay.
That's too vague.
You did it by the way. What were you going to say? You put your hands up. It was exciting. And I stopped you from driving off.
Yeah, it's gone. It's been vacuumed into the ether. Yeah, it's sucked into the ether. Yeah, rest in peace, James Vander Beek. Yeah, Jeff Bond. Isn't it the saddest fucking news, bro? I got to tell you, man. I'm at that stage. I remember when I was hanging out with my former father-in-law, who is now passed. And he was about my age. And he was like it just felt like every 3 or 4 months, he was like, oh, God, blah, 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 died. And, and the people a lot of, the early deaths of his era or whatever were happening around him. And I was like, I just wasn't relating to the impact that has. It really fucking hurts. And it leaves it's not fear. It's almost existential in the way it feels, these deaths of these younger people. Like Vander Beek he's 48. Yeah. So he's 7 years younger than me. And then you got you got Eric Dane battling ALS right now. Mm-hmm. And there are others, people who I know and who I've loved, who I know are battling difficult illnesses at my age, in Hollywood and elsewhere. And yeah, it kind of fills me with a certain kind of dread and a bit of an existential crisis of like, fuck am I doing? And what have we done? And, why did we do it all? And like just all of the...
This is exactly what Rilke was saying in his letters that were collected in that really amazing book called The Dark Interval.
Yeah, The Dark Interval by Rainer Marie Rilke.
Yeah, he's incredible. But he was saying that
one of my favorite writers.
That when you engage with this topic of death, it does bring you to the precipice, and it's a very, very scary place of like where your rational understanding meets something that just like spills out into this grand void that you can't logically discern or reconcile with. And he said that is the place that you have to go to if you want to develop any deep understanding of your human life and your human existence. Like that is a part of it that we very easily ignore. But every single time you get that feeling, you engage with these topics and you get that feeling that's like kind of dread, that's the calling. You're being called to engage more with that stuff. And the people that do find that it doesn't give them dread anymore, right?
Yeah.
That's just like, that's a barrier. That's a threshold that you're being called to cross. That's it. Like it's like a big stop sign and it makes you pause, but you are supposed to go through it eventually,
So Angela was my favorite person on this planet. We, we had a loss in our family. It was a big loss. It was on Angela's side of the family. It was a very big loss. It was tragic. It was definitely early. It had all the ingredients of grief and, the kind of terrible grief that can really stay with you. And you just busted this book out. Like as it happened, we got the call. She had like less than a day to live. And I think, 2 days later, you were reading this called The Dark Interval: Letters on Loss, Grief, and Transformation by Rainer Maria Rilke.
I really, really recommend it for anybody who is going through grief or like peripheral to grief. It's just a really, really incredible. It's just a collection of his letters where he is advising and counseling friends of his, close friends of his, when they are experiencing grief. And it's just like, he's just so fucking wise. And everything he said it's really clarifying. But I have this way of like, anytime I'm uncomfortable, I always just collect a book or 3 on it, and it makes me feel better. So I've got that kind of brain. I don't know if it's like, I don't know if it's exactly healthy, but that's what I do.
I have this weird feeling that like, so Heather McComb was married to James Van Der Beek.
Yeah.
I loved Heather McComb. I felt close to her. I knew her family. I knew her mother. I knew her sister. It was through her sister that I met a couple of the Friends cast. She was very close with a lot of them guys. It's just kind of like the whole like. Well, anyway. And I have this feeling that when you love somebody, and I don't know if this is true for everybody. I think there's a certain amount of, I don't know, whatever awareness. I don't call it awareness. It's kind of almost self-aggrandizing in terms of what I'm trying to say. So I want to be careful because I don't believe I'm anything special. But I believe that for at least some of us, and depending on like sort of how you're tuned, I guess is really where I should put it. Depending on how you're tuned, I think for some of us, we kind of almost there's a merging or a mingling of our soul. There's a mingling of our soul. There's a footprint there stamped that is out of love, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about universal love. I'm talking about the individual sort of expression and experience, the felt love of an individual, not of the whole. That there is a mingling there that can last forever. Maybe the mesh is, thicker and deeper when you're with somebody longer and, and the relationship is more, profound. For Heather McComb and I just love the kid. She was 18 when I met her. Mm-hmm. And I just loved her. She had this great like spunk and drive, and she was funny, and she was kind of fearless, and she was also super innocent, which I loved that whole combination. There was just a bunch of it was just great energy in general. And so in 2010, I made it back to Hollywood after leaving. So her and she was dating Artie Robb at the time, and they broke up. And after she broke up with Artie Robb, I never really saw her again. But we were close for like a year and a half, 2 years or whatever. I mean, she was over every day. she was dating Artie Robb, right? Mm-hmm. So it was just constant. And Artie and I were roommates. I go back to Hollywood in 2010. Joel Mickley, you'll remember him from the book Michael Hair's in My Tub. Mm-hmm. Joel Mickley's throwing a birthday party for himself, which he does so fabulously. In this case, it was packed. I mean, just jam-packed, this party, because he's a real popular guy. People love him. It's wonderful. So, and I was Artie Robb's kind of surprise to the party because I had not been in Hollywood in 6-7 years at that point. So Artie kind of slipped me in the back door without anybody knowing. And he calls Heather McComb over and he says, look who I got. And she's standing in front of me and I'm looking at her and I got the smile expecting her to go, oh my God, or have some reaction. And she tilts her head curiously and, she, furrows her brow a bit. And I'm like, well, and Artie's like, it's Dale. And her fur brow deepens,
Did you become unrecognizable?
No, dude.
Yeah, you look like the same person.
It's me. It's
true.
It's me, bro. I did not. That fucking hadn't changed a minute. I got a little fucking gray, whatever. I got some wrinkles in my eyes, but that fucking same guy.
Yeah.
So she looks at me all, head tilted. What the fuck? Uh-huh. And then Artie goes, Dale Wheatley.
And what'd she say? No, she didn't just stand there like a fucking...
She just stood there, bro.
But she didn't say anything?
Nothing. And then Artie was like, Dale fucking Wheatley, Heather. She's like, I don't know who you are. It is insanity at a level that I can't express to you. That it is impossible. It is impossible without her actually suffering some kind of brain injury.
Yeah, well, maybe she did.
To not know who I was. It's impossible.
Maybe she fucking did.
I spent like 400 days with that woman.
Yeah, I know, but like maybe she was in a fucking car accident or had a bad fall or something like that, and it literally like...
I am not aware of any of that. I think I would have fucking heard. Because Artie Robb was tied to this woman. It was a very fucking weird event. But where I'm going is that I am feeling an extreme, an unexpected amount of sadness and melancholy over the loss of James Van Der Beek, despite the fact that I've never had any connection with him, but for the fact that a former friend of mine, whom I believed that I loved, right? I believe that I love, I did love, somebody I love, was once married to him.
Because she's mourning, you feel that, is what you're saying?
I'm saying it feels like I can feel some of the pain and the suffering of the people that I've loved in my past because I'm soulfully intermeshed with them.
Well, maybe she doesn't remember him either.
James Van Der Beek.
I don't know. That's so weird. That story's so strange.
It's the strangest thing. Honestly, one of the strangest things that ever happened to me. I was like, I fucking looked at this woman and I'm like, I knew.
Did you tell her? Like, what the fuck, Heather?
I looked at her and I just went, okay. Good to see you again. That's all I said. Yeah. Good to see you again, Heather.
That's more mature.
That's all I got to say to you.
That's more mature than what I said.
What was weird was, though, like, you remember in the book when I talk about Leo kind of like when I was at his house and he was like staring at me, and it was like weird and tense. Mm-hmm. I got that from her later in the night. I was like, I just felt these eyes on me, and I looked over and there was Heather McComb like in a little booth with her eyes just fixed and squinted on me. It was... So maybe she deleted her history. I don't know. She remembered Artie Robb, and he was her boyfriend at the time.
This happened to me before. I apparently have a bad memory. I was waiting tables at the Bright Spot Cafe in Echo Park. And this big group of friends came in. Are you listening or are you reading?
I'm listening. Yeah, a group of friends came in.
I mean, not that it's a super captivating story either, but somebody was like, "Hey, I recognize you from high school," or like they started talking like they knew me. That's more like that's more true. What happened? They started talking like they knew me, and then I asked them, "Do I know you?" Because they were being so comfortable with me.
Right.
And they're like, "Yeah, Angela, we dated." I had no recollection whatsoever.
You dated him?
Yes. Is that horrible?
I was going to say, like, well, you went to school with him. It's not the same. Oh, my God.
I know.
So maybe it happened. Yeah, maybe.
I felt so bad. But, it is really just a blur. Like, I have there's like whole years in high school that I just don't recall whatsoever. Who knows, man? I can't explain it. My condolences.
Anyway, my story was very unpopular.
Harmed.
Almost everybody left. So I'll never tell that story again.
Confessions of a Jaded Optimist is with us today.
Oh, hi, Confessions of a
Said
Jaded
that
Optimist.
Ryan Reynolds is a no-show.
Yeah.
Even if I had to sit in the hallway, I would be there to support my family member. Well, we don't know whether she didn't want anybody else to be there.
Yeah.
You know, because
I'm sure they made the decision jointly, so
Yeah.
so
Blake
it's good for
Lively-
you, but it probably didn't fit for them. You know what I mean?
yeah, Blake Lively was like, hey, I got to go do this thing. It's total bullshit. I'm not going to settle, so it doesn't really matter. I don't really need any support because I'm strong enough. You know, Baldoni needed to bring his whole crew. I mean, not only because so many of his crew are co-defendants,
Yeah.
but because he always has to have a big crowd of emotional support around him. And maybe she was just like, I just got to go take care of business. It's
Some
like an
people
errand.
need their hands held. Some people don't. Blake Lively doesn't need his support, and she's trying to probably make a statement that they've been making, more than once through this process, which is that he's not a party to this case.
That's right. He's
And
not a party to
there-
this case.
And I think that's probably more the statement that they're making than anything else. I think a lot of people will want to make him a bad guy.
yeah, also,
And
Baldoni
make
really...
her fucking, they're splitting up because, one of them discovered just how evil the other is and goddamn garbage like that.
Baldoni made a big deal of Ryan Reynolds calling a meeting and then yelling at him for mistreating his wife, mistreating Lively. So it's possible that Ryan Reynolds was like, well, I definitely don't want to provoke that kind of feeling in him again. Like I don't want to be accused of going in there and trying to intimidate the guy since he's so sensitive, I think it makes a lot more sense than it doesn't.
Well, he's not a party to the case, so it makes perfect sense for him not to be there. I wouldn't be there if I weren't a party to the case either, unless you asked me to specifically. So I'm quite sure that they had the conversation.
Phil Baumling said, I actually thought Ryan Reynolds staying away was a power move. Blake Lively can stand on her own 2 feet.
Correct. I mean, a part of this is the solidarity of a woman and her rights and her whatever, her ability to defend herself. I just agree with you. I'm not articulating it very well, but
Hinata agrees the husband staying away is a power move.
Full Dark said Blake was just following the rules. There's no spouses allowed in the room.
Archival Raccoon saying the same thing. That's what most lawyers on Reddit are claiming, that she wouldn't have been allowed in. Neither would Ryan have been. Emily Baldoni, I guess.
Yeah. Fucking mean thing to do. Go sit out and go sit here and fucking give you a fucking bag of peanuts and some.
Well, I think this social pressure does factor into these sorts of things, right? So if you have a whole bunch of people like staring you down, right, on the other person's side, I think they account for that. So they make it a restricted room. That makes a lot of sense. Should I read, or are we still talking about other things? Or I'm not sure what you had planned for today.
I think we've covered the 3 main stories, Bijou Phillips. And so, yeah, let's read. So what are we reading right now?
Josh Greenstein.
So this is lawyer Josh, or not lawyer. This is Sony president of the motion picture division, former president of the motion picture division.
I got to find my place. So do you want to just talk with folks?
Josh Greenstein.
Talk amongst yourselves.
And Josh Greenstein, his testimony thus far has been very favorable to Blake Lively, I would say, calling her marketing prowess better than any he's ever worked with in terms of actor turned producers. It's an amazing statement for the guy who just got the job to co-chair Paramount Studios.
Yeah. Okay, I found it.
So anyway, this guy, Blake Lively played at a really high level, and he's describing it. So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, Josh Greenstein is being questioned by Miss Gavrnsky. What was her name? You said Mabel? No, what was her name?
Meryl.
Meryl Gavrnsky. That's
Meryl.
so adorable. I hope she knows that I'm a big fan of her name. Okay. Mr. Greenstein, did there come a time when Sony began to work on trailers for It Ends With Us? He said, sure. And who is responsible for creating the trailers for It Ends With Us? He says, Sony. Did there come a time when Sony tested trailers? He said, I assume so. That is the only page we get of that question. So Sony is responsible for creating the trailers.
I mean, this is. I'm so glad I feel so validated, because I don't have to feel validated, because I knew there was no other way, because I know that Hollywood doesn't work any other way. But I just love that. I just hope that, and I guess it's probably almost futile in my hoping, but I just hope that people fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
That and that the ones that are pro Baldoni are listening to this.
It's also it's just very insightful too. I mean, like, even though it affirms what we've already assumed, like, at least it does that. And hopefully people will realize how much of Baldoni's claims were absolute bullshit because he just doesn't understand, or I guess he wants everybody to ignore how the studio system works.
Yeah, let me explain something really quick.
Yeah.
Justin Baldoni overstepped his bounds when it came to the marketing of the movie when he defied the studio's wishes when the studio decided that they didn't want a DV-focused, a domestic violence-focused marketing campaign, and that instead they would use the power and the hope and the whatever, the power of a woman changing her destiny as the sort of hook to get butts in seats where they can then show them this really powerful story about overcoming domestic violence. And I think people get things confused because Blake Lively's, everybody gets to pitch their ideas to the studios where you're making a movie. If you're in the above the line, whether you're the writer, you're the producer, you're the director, you're major actor, you get to pitch your ideas as the movies are going along. That's why it's considered such a wildly collaborative art form. So it's not unusual that Baldoni would say, hey, these are my marketing ideas. And it's not unusual that Blake Lively would. Mm-hmm. What's unusual is when Sony says, no, we're not going to do that. And then he digs in and says, yes, we fucking are. That's unusual. That is where where he strayed and where Blake Lively instead thrived, because Blake Lively, instead of, trying to buck against what Sony wanted, aligned with it, mm-hmm. right? And was then able to, of course, take the movie through the final edit because of that. And that's a really important distinction, because I don't think people understand, or I think a lot of people understand that Justin Baldoni, he's the one who bucked the system when he turned his back on their marketing plan. Yeah. And it was Blake Lively who picked it up and ran with it. And it's not her marketing plan. It was just her brain to get behind it.
He wanted to take Sony money, but he didn't want to play by Sony's rules.
Unbelievable.
It's just, I just feel like that's one of the reasons why nobody wants to work with him anymore. I'm assuming.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm going to hand you what I'll mark as Exhibit 9, Ms. Gavronsky says. I'm definitely not going to go into the bulk of this email. This is an email that you received from someone named David Small? I don't know how to pronounce this. It's S-M-A-L-L-E. So, who knows? Smalle, if it's Spanish.
S-M?
S-M-A-L-L-E.
I think that's just small.
Okay. This is an email that you received from someone named David Small. Who is David Small? He says he worked in analytics. What does analytics do? And Josh Greenstein says, social listening, understanding how people online feel about subjects. Oh, so it sounds like what Jed Wallace claims he does. Monitoring. Question, and he works for Sony? Josh says yes. Okay, and do you trust Mr. Small's opinions? He said yes. For the record, I should note that this exhibit ends in Bates number, and then she reads it, but it's a Sony Pictures exhibit. Okay. Do you see where Mr. Small talks about the hugely successful trailer launch? And that's a quote, hugely successful trailer launch. He says yes.
I'm sorry, who is Mr. Small again?
He said he works in analytics.
Right, got it.
Question, is that consistent with your recollection about the trailer launch? He said yes. The attorney says, and he says, and she's reading a quote, the social response is bigger than we could have imagined. Do you see that? He says yes. And how many million viewers does he refer to? And Josh Greenstein says 108 million.
I just can't. It instantly intoxicates me.
Do you believe
inebriates
Do you believe that number is accurate? He says yes. Do you recall your reaction to the 108 million views on the It Ends With Us trailer? And Josh Greenstein says, I don't recall, but with those kinds of numbers and the kind of sentiment, I'm sure I was thrilled. Next question. And Mr. Small's email refers to, and she's reading this quote, 90% positive on fan-centric platforms. Do you see that? He says yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So that we pick up 3 pages later. They're trying to figure out whether it's small or
I just can't believe that.
Camino.
Fucking, like, she took over the movie and made you nothing but money.
Made you
You're
so much
literally
money.
living in a mansion
It's
because of the
money
money
you
she
used to sue her.
He had a
the money she made you.
He had a 10% back end, and I think he said in his testimony that he made like whatever. He didn't know exactly how much he made, which is say what? But it was in the million, like 5 to 8 million or something he made. It's like so much money.
Okay, this question picks up. I'm not sure what this was before, but they're trying to figure out this name. Okay. The attorney just says, Camino's email about a romantic thriller. How did Sony end up describing the film in those terms? Okay, and Josh Greenstein says, I don't recall, but I'm sure that there's a document, that there's a positioning document that I'm sure you guys have or exist that would accurately say what that was. I don't believe we ended up positioning it as a thriller. Again, in the early stages of marketing campaigns, there's a million ideas thrown out, and you're trying to see what's the most effective. And so at the early stage, at that early stage, any and all ideas are welcome. Next question. What about romantic drama? Do you believe that that was the genre that Sony used to describe the film? He says that sounds more accurate. To what extent are you aware that Sony Marketing explicitly decided not to label It Ends With Us a domestic abuse film? Josh Greenstein said, I think that was from the very beginning. Okay, I'm going to hand you what I'll mark as Exhibit 10.
It's a big deal, by the way.
Yeah. Do you see this email? He says, yep. Or, I'm sorry, not an email. Do you see this text exchange between you and Miss Lively? Is that right? He says, yes. Is this a true and accurate copy of a text exchange between you and Miss Lively dated March 4th, 2024? He says, yes. Okay, if I can direct your attention to where Miss Lively wrote that Justin just texted her to invite her into the edit starting next week, March 11th. Do you see that? He says, yes. Did you understand Justin to mean Mr. Baldoni? He says, yes. And for some reason, the rest of it is cut off, so we don't get to see it.
Suckers.
Hopefully it picks up here several pages later. Exhibit 12. The title of this email is It Ends With Us, 3.28 Screening, Denver. So I guess that last question doesn't continue. Does this refresh your recollection about when Mr. Baldoni's first official test of his cut was screened? He says, yeah, yes. Okay, and when did that first official test occur? Josh Greenstein said sometime in that week, the March 29th week. Okay, it says 3/28 screening in the title, right? He says, yeah. And the attorney says, so March 28th, 2024? He says, yep, there it is, yep. Okay, and where did the March 28th screening of Mr. Baldoni's cut occur? He says it looks like it was Denver. Did you attend? He says, don't recall. Did Miss Lively attend? He said, I don't know. Okay, the first email in Exhibit 12 is from Navina Samuel. Mr. Samuel. And there's a 6, so maybe it's Mrs. I don't know. Navina Samuel is a Sony Vice President of Global Strategic Market and Research. Is that accurate? He says yes, and he corrects her, Miss. Okay, thank you very much, says the attorney. Josh Greenstein says no problem.
I got you.
The attorney says, oh, I had Miss in my outline, thank you. And Miss Samuel says the ratings were, quote, and this is a quote read from the text's positive but short of the theatrical targets. Do you see that? For Baldoni's cut. That the ratings were positive but short of theatrical targets. And they're trying to help him see where it is. In the document, her question says, is that consistent with your understanding, with your recollection regarding the first cut of Mr. Baldoni's screening, that the reaction was positive but short of theatrical targets? He said yes.
Yes.
Miss Samuel continues that, and this is a quote she's reading, the screening fell behind among other audiences, but particularly women under 35. Do you see that? He said yes. The attorney says, and if we go to the top of the next page where it says top box 2, remind me what top 2 box. Remind me what top 2 box is. And he said, excellent and very good. Top 2 box. Of like the scale, I guess. Mm-hmm. Excellent and very good. She says, okay, and we earlier talked about the contractual requirements for Sony to choose Mr. Baldoni's cut. Do you recall that? He said yes. And do you recall that the top 2 boxes had to be 90%, right? He said yes. Well, what is your recollection of what Mr. Baldoni's cut had scored in the top 2 boxes in order for his cut to be the one released? And Josh Greenstein says, I have no recollection, but based on what the document you showed me, it was 90. Okay, and looking at this, can you help us understand what the score was for Mr. Baldoni's cut at the March 28th screening in the top 2 box? He said 76. The attorney says 76%. He said, uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean,
So it didn't cut it.
it's fine, but that's not great.
Question. If I can direct your attention to the yes, definitely, what does this box describe? And he says, would you definitely recommend this film to somebody? And the attorney says, and we talked about the yes, definitely category with respect to the contract between Sony and Mr. Baldoni. Do you recall that? And he said, yes, I recall that. Do you recall what percentage Mr. Baldoni needed to hit in order for his cut to be the one released? And he says 70 was that. I can look at those documents again, but I believe 70. Okay, and what was Mr. Baldoni's, strike that, what was the definitely recommend percentage for Mr. Baldoni's cut? 62. And what about after the March 28th test, do you recall having any conversations with Miss Lively relating to editing the film? And he says, after this, and the attorney says, uh-huh. He says, I do not. Do you recall having a meeting with Miss Lively at her apartment after the March 28th test? And this gets cut off, but he says, I recall a meeting at her apartment, and that's all we see. This picks up 3 pages later.
Well, that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. Again, they put the bake-off in because they wanted to make sure that Sony had control of the cut. And the bake-off was not there to help Justin Baldoni.
So everybody who has been saying for months and months and months that Justin Baldoni's cut tested better are wrong. Because there are metrics that Sony was looking for.
Specific metrics. Yes.
That Sony was looking for, not for his film, but for all of the films that they do these test screenings on. And he didn't meet them.
Nope.
I think that's very interesting.
No, and they're going to keep cutting to get to that number.
Yeah.
They want that 70% or higher because that's the number they can bank on.
And they want that 90% excellent and very good.
So let me help you understand why. They're going to invest up to the amount of the budget of the film in advertising and marketing. So they want to know, they need to buy audiences only, not by fucking directors, not by fucking producers or writers, not by actors, but by audiences. They're going to test those audiences and they're going to make sure that those numbers are going to give them the best chance at recouping and getting a profit. There's no way around that in Hollywood at all. And there are certain directors like Quentin Tarantino who just get what they get. And a lot of them,
and it shows. It shows sometimes.
And a lot of them, like
I
Woody
watch
Allen,
some of his movies and I'm like, who let you do this dumb shit?
You're right. A lot of them, like Woody Allen, for example, through his entire career, he was always working with low budgets comparatively. So a lot of the directors that are out there are also directors who write and direct, sometimes even star, and they make them for a penny on the dollar compared to what studios typically do. So they're like, all right, my risks are low. They mitigate the risk by taking these directors and everybody else are not making a lot of money on it. Being an art house filmmaker is a long, hard road. It's not, for most,
Yeah, but you get to keep doing it, right?
But you get to keep on. It's a golden life. It's just not one that's lavish and made of a lot of money.
Hey
unless,
man,
you hit a couple.
I don't need a Baldoni house. Do you need a Baldoni house?
Never wanted one. Yeah. Never wanted one in my life. I never wanted anything like that in my life. I can feel lonely.
They're not called mansions anymore to me, by the way. From now on, I know that I'm just going to call them a Baldoni house in our
the Baldoni
in
house.
our discussion.
I don't need a Baldoni house. No, because dude, I can feel lonely in an apartment, man. I mean, if you were like, hey, I'm going to see my mom or whatever. I'll be back in a couple of days or something like this. And I'm in a goddamn 7,000 square foot. Like,
oh God,
I would just struggle with my existence.
Dude, even if you're like over in the fucking East Wing somewhere, I gotta I have to get on the fucking walkie-talkie to find out where you are.
I'm certain that my entire life would have, if had I succeeded and without interference. And I think that I would have never lived in anything more than a couple thousand square feet. Mm-hmm. And, maybe 2,500. Maybe I go as high as 3,000 because, there's a couple rodents running around, hooked up with some, breeder.
But all of it is basement. So you get like one of those basement, like
yeah. Stretched up
rec rooms.
Nadine is here. Oh my God.
It's been so long.
Yeah.
It's so great. Okay.
Good to see you.
I know. She arrived just for the boring part.
It's fucking totally cheered me up in the biggest way. Nadine, for people who don't know her, she's like, she goes all the way back to TikTok days. Mm-hmm. So we did 200. This is 201 episodes on YouTube, and we did like another 100 over there. And Nadine was there for all of that. So we go way back.
She's OG.
Me and Nadine.
Should I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. Next question. Do you recall asking Miss Lively to make Sony's cut of the film? He says, I do not. Do you recall Miss Lively telling you that she did not want to be involved in editing the film? He said, no, I don't know either way. I don't remember. Do you recall Miss Lively telling you that Sony should hire its own editor to make its own cut? He said, I don't remember. Do you recall approving Miss Lively to work with her own editor? He said, I don't. I know that there was a conversation that I had with Ange, but I don't recall the specifics. Do you recall who the editor was that Miss Lively ended up working with on Sony's cut? He says, I forget his name. The attorney offers Shane Reed, and he says, sounds right.
God, Shane Reed is like, story of my life, pal.
Do you recall helping coordinate Mr. Reed's schedule to work with Miss Lively? He said, I don't. Do you recall helping clear Mr. Reed's calendar so that Mr. Reed could work with Miss Lively? He says, I don't. If there was conversations, it would probably be with Ange in terms of facilitating any of that. Do you recall calling the director of another film, Mr. Reitman, and asking to release Shane to work with Miss Lively? He says, oh, yes, I do recall that. Josh Greenstein says, yes, I believe that they wanted Shane to help in the edit, and he was on, I think, Ghostbusters at the time, and I called Jason and said, hey, can you help us for, a week or two, I believe, but I do remember that.
He called up Ivan Reitman.
He called Jason Reitman.
Oh, Jason, that's his son. Is Ivan Reitman alive? Oh, no, he's dead.
Question, and when do you believe that conversation was? He said, I have no idea. So you were facilitating Miss Lively using Mr. Reed for an edit? And Josh Greenstein said, I guess you could call it that. I was just helping, I think, him with Jason Reitman. But yeah, I would say Sony helped facilitate that. Next question. And why did Sony help facilitate that? And he said, to see if we could get a better cut. It's like, why wouldn't we help get a better cut? The cut we had wasn't working. We needed a better cut.
We do. We look for a better cut. I mean,
we're trying to put out a good movie.
We keep going. That's the process of filmmaking. It's the process of writing. It's the process of everything.
Did Miss Lively ever express any other motivation other than hoping to get a better cut? He said, no, she was clear she wanted to do a cut to make the movie great. And you discussed that she had mentioned some of the difficulties on the set. Did she ever threaten to publicly disclose what happened on the set unless you allowed her to be involved in the edit? This is one of Baldoni's allegations.
Yeah.
He says no.
No.
Did Miss Lively ever threaten you in any way in connection with her involvement in the edit? He said no.
It's the stupidest
I know.
fucking thing. How many times did I say it back in the day? If you think that there's going to be a Sony executive that's going to come in and sit down and under oath say that Blake Lively extorted them into doing things, into changing the way they were going to make their movie or distribute their movie, I mean, the amount of fucking naivete involved is epic.
I handed you a document that I'll mark as Exhibit 12, which is this catalog number, which is the text between you and Miss Lively. This is, according to the catalog number, it's produced by Blake Lively. Do you see that? He says, the deposition reporter says, I believe it's 13. So she says, thank you very much. Exhibit 13, which is a text between you and Miss Lively. Do you recognize it? He says, I don't recognize it, but I have no reason not to believe it. Okay, it's a May 4th document, and you write, and she's reading this quote, so glad that you are with Shane. 3 exclamation points. Do you see that? He says, uh-huh. And who were you referring to when you said Shane? He said, it must be the editor. Okay, and so were you being truthful when you said that you were so glad that Miss Lively was working with Shane? And he says, yeah, I think I was happy because she was happy, and yeah. This picks up another 3 pages later, so I don't know what this answer is. The last part of the question that I can see is simply says contractual thresholds, and it's in quotes. So I don't know what the question is, but the answer by Josh Greenstein is, it must mean far from this was based on a screening. I don't know if this was in response to one of Justin's cuts of the film. I don't know. So do you recall that there were 2 screenings in Edward's Aliso Viejo? He says, okay, I don't, but I believe you. Question. Well, do you recall that there was a second screening for Mr. Baldoni's cut? And he says, sounds right. Okay, I can represent to you that the May 13th testing at Edwards Aliso Viejo was the second screening of Mr. Baldoni's cut. So, I'm sorry, did you answer? He said, okay. I'm sorry, did you answer the question? When you refer to these contractual thresholds in quotes, are those the ones we discussed earlier, the 90% for the top two? He said, I assume. Okay, and Mr. Baldoni's cut at the second test did not reach that 90% threshold. Is that right? He says, I don't know based on this, but if you've got the date, then yes.
I mean,
Question.
they literally rigged it. It's a rigged.
So she's reading from this document.
Great.
So when you wrote 86% top two, what did that mean? He says, that's the top two. That's definite and excellent. I mean, that's very good and excellent. Okay, and so this is your understanding of the results from the May 13th testing. He says it must have been, yeah. Okay, and what about definite recommend? What do you mean there? She's quoting def recommend, and he says definitely recommend. And what did you understand was the definite recommend score was at the second screening? He says it looks like 66. It did worse at the second screening.
I thought it was 62 on the first one, but okay.
No, it was 70. It was supposed to be, I can't remember.
It had to be 70.
Do you want me to scroll back up?
No, absolutely not necessary. He missed the threshold.
Okay, it looks like 66. Okay, and you wrote, and she's reading this quote, the ending is most likely doing the heavy lifting and improving scenes. Oh, this gets fucking cut off. That's so annoying. The ending is most likely doing the heavy lifting and improving scenes. That's all we get. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, it's probably, well, it doesn't matter.
3 pages later. Question. Okay, and to what extent was your shocker in reaction to Miss Lively saying that Mr. Baldoni had resisted the Atlas scene at the end? He said shocker. Josh Greenstein says, oh, I don't think it was directed towards that. I think it was directed at, of course, that's what the audience wanted, from what I recall. Question. And Miss Lively continued to work on Sony's cut after the May 13th testing, right? He said yes. Did Sony continue to support her use of an editor? He said, I believe so, yes. And do you recall the first time that the Sony cut was screened? He said, I do not. Okay, I'm going to hand you what I'll mark as Exhibit 15. This is an email from Mr. Pan to you about the results of the May 18th screening. Do you see that? He says, yep. He says, the attorney says, what is this document?
Did he say yep?
He said, yep, he's a yepper. What is this document? He says, looks like a document about how the movie tested versus the previous cuts. Okay, and who is Jack Pan? He says he runs...
Peter's cousin.
He runs... he's like brother to the Beanstalk guy.
Yeah.
Okay. He runs research for Sony. Jack Pan runs research for Sony. Okay, the attorney says, and he writes, and she's reading, tonight's scores. Tonight, presumably referring to, well, let's see, this is an email. This is at 4:24 a.m., so tonight's scores would refer to May 18th, right? He said, uh-huh. Okay, and she's reading, hi, Josh, tonight's scores attached with comparisons to the 2 previous screenings. Do you see that? He says, uh-huh. Okay, and let's look at that first. I see you rushed to the second page, but can we? And he says, I'm just trying to jog my memory, sorry. The attorney is trying to get him to stop turning pages. Okay, no, that's fine. But can we look under prose, the first bullet that says, and she's reading, this cut pushes the emotional grounds to greater extents. Specifically, the romance is steamier and the abuse is heavier and the emotional arc is more varied and intense. Do you see that? And he says, uh-huh. She says, please make sure you're saying yes. He goes, yes, sorry. I'm really sorry. The attorney says...
I don't think he is.
He's lying under oath.
Yeah. No, he perjured himself right there.
The attorney says, I keep reminding you. We have to keep reminding each other. He says, yeah, yes.
He can say yeah.
He should go, uh-huh.
He just can't grunt.
Okay, so help me understand. In all of these various cuts, is part of the purpose experimentation? He said, yes. And why is that? Josh Greenstein says, because it's a creative process and you're trying things out. There's a million different variables and ways you can do that. There's a million different variables and ways you can do it. And you're just trying to get to the back's best mix of all those.
Variables, basically, yeah.
Yeah, best mix of all those variables.
It's the greatest art form for that reason alone. It's just so fucking rich and deep, and It just can
Do
change.
you get to poll people?
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Hey, that make you feel something? No? Shit.
All right, back to work. We'll
Back to work.
We'll cut it some more. We'll write it some more. Or we'll.
Okay, let's go to the attachment, which is cataloged. Do you see that? She says, actually, let's go to the page, this other one. Do you see that? He says yes. Okay, let's just orient ourselves. Under the dates, you see there's 3 dates, May 18th, May 13th, and March 28th. Okay, so we established earlier that the March 28th was the first test of Mr. Baldoni's cut in Denver. You can see that here, right? Denver, Colorado, and he affirms it. Is that consistent with your understanding that March 28th reflects the first test of Mr. Baldoni's cut? He says, He's still uh-huh-ing. He's uh-huh-ing this whole page. Okay, and then May 13th, 2024, you see Elisa Viejo. Oh, yes, please say yes or no. He says, yes, sorry. It's adorable. Okay, in response to May 13th, when we look at May 13th, Elisa Viejo, California, we talked about that as the second test of Mr. Baldoni's cut. Is that consistent with your understanding? He said yes. Okay, and then the top one is in New York, May 18th, 2024. We talked about that. You testified that that was the first test of Sony's cut. Is that right? He said yes. Okay, so let's go down to the total positive. Is total positive the same as top 2? He said yes. Okay, and if we look under totals, can you please compare the results of the 3 tests that we see in that box under totals? Josh Greenstein said the last test was 84, the second test was 85, and the original test was 76. Question, none of those tests met the 90% contractual threshold, right? He says, correct.
By design.
Okay, and if you compare Mr. Baldoni's cut, strike that. If you compare the second test of Mr. Baldoni's cut with the first test of Sony's cut, what do you see comparing those 2 percentages? In total positive, he says it went down a point. So she says essentially a tie, and he said, yeah, 84 to 85. Okay, and what about yes, definitely? Can you take a look and tell us what you see? Josh Greenstein says, yeah, clear 69 versus a 66 and a 62. Question, so which cut had the 69? He said the third cut, I guess you'd call that the Sony cut. Okay, and what percentages did Mr. Baldoni's cuts previously achieve in yes, definitely? He said 66 and 62. Okay, I'm going to hand you what we
By the way, that is the most important statistic.
Would you recommend it? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely recommend is the one that they're banking on when they're projecting. Because then they run the numbers and they're like, what do we need to get a certain number in?
Yeah.
Because then they go number times 70% equals, right? For opening night, right? So it's like opening night, we want to get whatever. We want to get 1 million butts in seats. Mm-hmm. If we get 1 million butts in seats, our Saturday is going to look like maybe 1.7. Maybe we continue with the momentum of the first, with 1 million people already intending to go.
If they're
and 700 recommended to go.
If they're grabbing their girls and wearing their florals, we can keep making money.
Correct.
Okay. The attorney says, I'm going to hand you what I will mark as Exhibit 16. Okay, what is this? He says, texts between me and Blake, and where she sent me Colleen's reaction to her cut. Okay, so let me break that up. The attorney's saying, by Colleen, you mean Miss Hoover? He says yes. And when you say her cut, you mean what you've been referring to as Sony's cut. He said yes. That's interesting. The Sony guy is also calling it Blake's cut. But he is not saying that is Blake's, he's referring to it as Blake's cut, but he understands that it's Sony's cut. And he keeps saying so in the deposition.
Yeah, because they don't talk about themselves in that way. They don't call it this because Sony owns it already. So they're gonna attribute it to the producer who's running the cut, Blake Lively.
Where she sent me Colleen's reaction to her cut. And when you say her cut, you mean what we've been referring to as Sony's cut? He said yes. That's interesting. I think he misspoke there because I don't think that he is intending to support Blake Lively's version of events, which he knows to be true, by calling it her cut. But I think he slipped.
It doesn't matter because that's just what they would call it.
Yeah. Okay.
But like calling it Blake's cut doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't.
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't. But I'm sure that he was trying to avoid using that term because
they probably had like
Baldoni's.
A Sony meeting about it. They were like, "Look, this is fucking Sony's cut. We're not letting somebody,
claim it,
pretend to be bigger than Sony." Right?
Next
and not that she was doing that, but do you follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, well, especially when somebody's being scapegoated and given full responsibility for something that belongs to Sony. Okay, and what was
Precisely.
This attorney is asking, what was Miss Hoover's reaction to viewing Sony's cut? And we actually have that exhibit, by the way. If you guys want to know what it is, I can read that too. Josh Greenstein said, well, based on this text, it was effusive. And it says, and he's reading now from the
Everybody loves
text.
effusive.
I have a list of 57 things I love about yours more. You killed it. And then he continues speaking. He says, and then she put some of her specific thoughts, and I wrote, and he's reading from the document, amazing and good news. The attorney says, why was it good news? Josh Greenstein says, because it's important, no matter what cut of the movie you go with in terms of the film and in terms of the marketing, that the cut, the author, someone as much influence and understanding of the audience, Colleen Hoover, supports it and thinks it, champions it. The attorney says, you said, in quotes, according to this text. Is there any reason to think that this is not an accurate reflection of the text and he cuts her off, says, no, not at all.
You know what's funny? If Colleen Hoover said it was an abomination and they had a 70% or better on definitely recommend.
They'd run with it.
He'd be like, I don't give a fuck what she said.
I know.
You know what? This isn't the book, honey. This is the movie. Buckle up.
Okay, so the last question was, you said, according to this text, is there any reason to think that this is not an accurate reflection of the text and he cuts her off? No, not at all. He says, I'm just saying that because I have zero memory in general. And I just wanted, I've never done a deposition, so I'm just trying to be accurate, Ms. Gavrnsky says, so if you look up at your text message from 11:11 p.m., before Miss Lively sends you Miss Hoover's text, you say, in quotes, spoke to Colleen. Do you see that? He says, uh-huh. He's back to uh-huhs.
Can't get away from it.
Yeah, we don't get to see the rest of this. This picks up several pages later.
Okay.
So this is the middle of his answer. I don't know what the context of this is, but he says, it's very different fan bases, very different reasons, but that's all the same for all of it. Is you need to have the tip of the spear excited about what you're doing and believing in what you're doing. The attorney says, so what weight would you place on Miss Hoover's opinion? He said, a lot. And how did you consider Miss Hoover's opinion in deciding what cut of the film to release? And he says, I would say it had a big sway. She asks, even more than testing metrics? And he said, I don't know if I'd say more,
That's
but
ridiculous.
On par.
Interesting.
If she had a real problem with something that was in the film, we would have a major problem.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm arguing with him, but if the metrics are there, I don't think that's true. I think if they know the money's there, they're going to just go get the money like they always do.
That's what I love about doing this, is because you can argue with him. Because even though he's an expert and you really shouldn't be arguing with him, you can, because we're here and it's just us talking to each other.
I would be able to argue with
friends.
him in person. I'd be able to say, so you're telling me that if you were hitting 75% recommend C, 80% recommend C, and the author was like, this is fucking, tar poopy, you would be like,
You'd scrap it?
You'd be like, okay, we're not going out with this movie that scores through the roof. There's no way that the metrics outweigh anybody's opinion to a studio, but it's nice of him to say. And you know what this guy does? Like, if you look at the way he spoke to and about Blake Lively through this whole thing, this guy, he toes the company line. He holds it all down. He's politically correct.
That's why he's promoted all the time.
Saying that about Colleen Hoover only makes his ability to obtain Colleen Hoover properties
this is
more
why,
available to him.
This is why he's big shit, and why Mr. Baldoni, why Justin Baldoni is getting fucking sued.
Exactly right.
Because he can't fucking conduct himself professionally.
And he can't understand the power and importance of inclusion with all of the people, not just, and that's the problem. He wants to exclude everybody. He wanted to exclude Blake Lively, wanted to exclude who was the big star of the movie in a major studio production. And he wanted to exclude Colleen Hoover, and did exclude Colleen Hoover. Until Blake Lively got involved, she didn't get to see anything. And and the cool thing about reading Colleen Hoover's deposition for everyone, another deposition we read, in that deposition, she clarified that in her past experiences with movies that she has licensed, her books to, her property to, that she's always been given dailies. And it makes perfect sense. I would definitely want the author involved in my work if I was adapting something. I would definitely want that, especially if I'm doing it at the Sony level, because I would know that the underlying material, unless already stated by the studio, which can happen, they'll maybe it's like 50 Shades of Grey, and they're like, let's go ahead and punch it up a little in terms of the actual storytelling. You know what I mean?
Okay, this picks up a few pages later. She goes, the attorney is asking, to what extent did Miss Lively include Miss Hoover in the editing process? And Josh Greenstein says, I believe substantially. Question, can you explain what you mean by substantially? He says, well, I believe she showed her the film several times, got several rounds of notes, and addressed all of Colleen's notes. I don't have the specifics, but that's what I recall. Okay, and to what extent did Mr. Baldoni include Miss Hoover in the editing process? And he said, I don't know. I do recall it felt like Colleen felt that she was brought into the Blake cut in a more substantive way, but I don't recall the specifics.
Which we got from Colleen Hoover.
And do you recall hearing that from Miss Hoover herself? He said yes. Yeah, she's actually complaining in a text message to Justin Baldoni. She feels shut out. Okay, a couple pages later.
It made him sad, Angela.
I know. Wasn't it super sad?
It made him sad. Justin felt sadness.
Oh, it made her sad too.
It made her disappointed.
It made him sad, but he didn't change what he was doing. Okay, a few pages later, the question is, Mr. Greenstein, I'm handing you Exhibit 19. What is this document? And he says, this looks like a text from Ryan congratulating me on Sony's Garfield opening.
This is great.
Those are the texts you received from Mr. Reynolds? He says, yes. Question, and that's Miss Lively's husband, right? He says, yes. And if you go to the second paragraph, Mr. Reynolds writes, and he's quoting, this attorney is quoting, and of course it's a long bit because Ryan Reynolds is effusive. Okay, this quote from Ryan Reynolds. More importantly, Josh, I can't thank you enough for your level of integrity and leadership with the It Ends With Us drama. You're not only backstopping a vastly better version of the film, but you're making fans and allies left, right, and center. And you respond, the attorney says, and she's reading, I really... the attorney's correcting. And he writes other things. And then you write, and then she's reading this quote. I really appreciate your kind words. I'm so impressed with how Blake has handled the situation. The attorney says, what did you mean when you wrote, I'm so impressed with how Blake has handled the situation? Josh Greenstein says, I believe I meant how impressed I was with what she was doing in terms of the movie and the marketing campaign under these circumstances.
And the way she, stole the movie with just right in front of everybody's face, like
how she extorted my company.
David Blaine level fucking shit right there. Some Houdini action.
Question. And what impressed you about how Blake was handling the marketing campaign under these circumstances? He said, well, at the time, I'm just going to read my response. It was about, thank you. Yeah, I believe it was about how creative she was, how she wouldn't settle for anything but greatness in the film and in the marketing campaign. And the attorney says, and then you say that her North Star is the movie. He said, yes. What did you mean by that? He said, well, it's kind of something I always said whenever I worked in places where it was like, even though I was employed by a studio, like I always felt like I never worked for the studio. I never worked for the filmmakers. I worked for the movie. And that's the only thing that mattered. The best version and the biggest audience to come and see a movie. And I believe that's how I felt she was in regards to this process. All she cared about was greatness.
This guy is just the real deal in every possible way.
I know.
When I work with writers, I've been hired to develop writers, right, by producers in Hollywood here, in Georgia. Just it's one of the things I do to make some money, and I'm always asked, well, what's the timeline? And I was like, what's your goal? I would ask them what their goal is, and they would always say something other than greatness. And literally I just really align with this guy because, in every conversation, I'm like, the goal is greatness.
You're going to do as many drafts as it takes to get to greatness.
That there's no amount of, it doesn't matter if it's 2 drafts or 60 drafts.
How long does it
take? We're not going to stop
until we get to greatness.
Until we've achieved greatness. Yeah. That should be your goal. And your goal, and the interesting thing about greatness is that when you involve the right people in your incredible, arduous and often very fulfilling ascent to greatness. If you establish the right people around you, you'll have people who are proper, true barometers. Who are people you can turn to, and they can be like, "It's good."
Oh yeah, that's me. I'm really opinionated, so I'll be that all the time.
And if your expectation for your own work is greatness, you'll attract that kind of. I believe you'll attract that kind of people. Those kinds of. Whatever helpful critics.
Maybe that's why I'm working with you, because I'm nice and opinionated and judgmental. So I'll help you. I'll help you get there.
You're working with me because you believe in me and
Although
you
I
love me.
don't think you needed much help.
You're capable, but it's all about that for me. And I just love that about this guy. And this is what is missing in Justin Baldoni's life and in his entire performance through this whole thing.
One of the
There
things...
was no talk about making the greatest movie possible. There was all talk about making the kind of movie he wanted to make.
Yeah, and the reason why I believe this is all just, for entertainment purposes only, because I don't actually know the guy or the situation intimately, but he makes his bad mood and his hurt feelings everybody else's problem. So what he gets from the people around him is people placating him and pacifying him and trying to make him feel better regardless of what the truth is. You're never going to get honest collaborators around you if you're being a wuss about taking criticism.
Or if you're more concerned with your vanity credit than you are with the quality of the film or the edit. Yeah. If you're sitting there and trying to hold people accountable for getting your name removed from a vanity credit without taking away your credit for directing the movie, rather than protecting, if you're more worried about your cut versus the cut that's going to get you the most viewed movie,
right? He saw those scores too, and he wasn't like, "Oh shit, I guess I got to do better."
At the end of
he was like, "You guys need to put out my cut."
When they put the fucking movie out, the editor is not Justin Baldoni, even if it were his cut that was released. Even if it was his cut that was released, it's still going to be the editor who edited the film, not Justin Baldoni. Right. And when people talk about Justin Baldoni in that situation, if it was his so-called cut that got... The only reason we know of Justin Baldoni's cut, or we know of Blake Lively's cut, is because of the dispute.
Because Justin Baldoni was a giant fucking wuss about it.
Well, and whatever.
He was told by the studio, whose money he took, that he wasn't doing a good enough job, and he wanted to plant his feet and stomp like a fucking toddler about it, instead of like being like, okay, great, well, I want what's best for the film. I want fucking greatness, and so it's fine if you guys are going to take over and help me achieve that, because it makes him the money.
Justin Baldoni was not after greatness; he was after personal greatness. Greatness is the fucking... And by the way, greatness is not determined by you or me or by the fucking... It is determined by the people for whom your work is intended. That is it. When I made Small Group, the fucking director... I've told you the story before. For those of you who've heard it before, when I made Small Group, the fucking director wrote me and said, "What do you think?" after we saw the final cut on the big screen. And I said, "You made a good film." And then he said, "Oh, damn it." He said, "Darn it," or dagnamit, or whatever, or whatever Christian safe curse was good for him. And then he said that he was
disappointed you didn't.
He was disappointed because he wanted me to say that the movie was great. And I was like, it's not fucking up to me, dude. It's not up to us. Mm-hmm. And you said, I told him right then, I was like, you have to let it go, because now this is in the hands of the people who see it, the people for whom you attended this movie to watch, and that's it. And they get to decide, not you, not me. Not anybody else in this movie. Mm-hmm. It's kind of beautiful. It's frightening. It's, you're jumping into, an empty-handed, leap into the void.
Yeah, well, this is the way of art,
especially when
though.
You're independent.
I mean, it has to go out and live its own life. It's like children, you can't control the person that they become. You just have to do your best,
Shout out to KF. Your name's, I'm fucking it up, but KF says, "First time catching alive, now I know him with some good people."
Hey.
Normally people who catch it alive, they're like, "Oh, you guys are fucking delusional."
Yeah,
bro.
you're biased. Like everybody's not.
We're glad to see you. We're having fun with this case, and just in case you don't know, I'm an independent filmmaker. I made a movie called Dawn's Plan with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire. Those men deliberately took my movie away from me. They suspended the movie.
Yeah, they actually stole your movie.
Sorry, they blocked the movie from being released in the United States and Canada. And then they went and blacklisted my career, and they also smeared my name throughout Hollywood and throughout the media. And so this case really got my attention because I had just been releasing this book called Too Real a Hollywood Memoir. And all of a sudden, Blake Lively started revealing all of the shit that I had already gone through with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire when they attempted to destroy my life and my work.
And it's in that book.
And they were very successful at it, by the way, as because I didn't have the money to fight. So that's the wild sort of like relationship we have with this.
If you think that the Lively Baldoni case is juicy, you would definitely enjoy Dale's book.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mine's,
very similar situation.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so she is the attorney's continuing to read excerpts from the text messages between Josh Greenstein at Sony with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Okay. She says, "You say," and this is a quote from Josh Greenstein, I tell my wife and daughters all the time, you need to advocate for yourself, especially in this world as a woman. And the attorney asks, I'm wondering why you included that sentence. He said, well, probably because I've been on so many movies where, similar disagreements have happened between star and director, or studio and star, or studio and director. There's all kinds, or producers or financiers. And it's quite common for, in my experience, male stars to have real opinions and use their weight to say, this is what's got to be. And I just think that there shouldn't be a double standard.
I just love this guy.
I know. He's great.
I'm going to slow dance with him, I think. When I meet him, I'm going to be like, I'm going to take him by the hand. I'm going to pull him to the middle of the floor. I'm just going to have a little slow dance with him.
No ass grabs, though. He seems like he wouldn't appreciate that. Did you think that there was a double standard? And he says, well, I think that the pushback, I think I was responding to from what was going on. I'm not sure I felt that there was a double standard. I was just saying I liked the fact that Blake was really speaking up for herself and trying to do what was best for the movie.
It puts a lump in my throat, dude. This woman has been just absolutely gutted, Yeah,
and he has coworkers, whatever they're called, at Sony who are not siding with her. Like there's that other Sony executive who's calling her all kinds of really horrible names. So it's just really wonderful that she found an advocate with this guy.
Yeah, and the sad thing about both of them is that they're not recognizing what was afoot. That there was a cancer, not just in their movie, but in Hollywood in general. I've said it time and again. But if you're putting out the persona of women are safe here, not only are they safe, but they're exalted. Not only exalted, but they're emboldened to be the greatest version of themselves. And they're emboldened to go where women would normally fear because of it being male dominated and them being rejected or whatever.
Yeah, he's continuing to answer questions about this. Next question is, did you think that Miss Lively was acting as a terrorist? He says no.
Oh, he's the only one, apparently.
Did you ever tell anyone that Miss Lively was acting as a terrorist? He said, I don't believe so, no. Your next sentence you say, and she's reading, this is a quote, not only does Blake do that for herself, but she is a creative force and a total badass. Do you see that? He says, yes. Why did you include that line? He said, because I was incredibly impressed that, especially seeing everything that she was doing in terms of the cut of the film and the marketing of the film, that her creativity, she took like an OK campaign and elevated it. And that whole Lily's Flower Shop special shoot with her and the cast was all kind of her design, right? And it really helped the movie. Her pushing us to go screen the movie in full at Colleen's book event thing and having courage to do that, and where we wanted to just show a little snippet of the movie. That's so clarifying. I can't believe that he said that. Her pushing us to go screen the movie in full at Colleen's book event thing. So I'm sorry, he's still answering, but I'm going to just do a little, break.
I love it,
I'm going to break the fourth wall a little bit here.
Go ahead.
So Justin Baldoni said that she stole the movie.
Yeah.
And that she screened the full movie without anybody's permission. And Blake Lively even said that she stole the movie and she's screening
I told you she told the crowd that for
and we were saying this from the beginning.
I knew
that she was providing that like sneaky exclusivity to the audience. She was also basically telling them, hey, this is a secret between you and me. And since we're girlfriends, I know you're not going to pull out your cell phone and take video recordings of this movie.
Yeah,
because you'll get me in trouble, is what she was saying.
What I said from the very beginning.
Marketing.
What I said from the very beginning on that was that Blake Lively probably did try to pursue them and persuade them and convince them to do it. But that that was the moment that she shared with the audience was like, look, this is not even supposed to be happening.
Oh yeah, okay.
And giving them that air of exclusivity.
I thought she was just fibbing.
But what I stated very clearly and is so painfully obvious and should be obvious to anybody with, like any moment of time to think about it. Like if you take any moment of time to just think it through, Sony Studios is not going to sit idly by. If an actor grabs a cut and makes off to a major event where thousands of people are going to see the movie.
Well, she's a producer, but yeah.
No,
same thing.
Doesn't matter, dude. The studio is never going to sit back and let anybody do that.
Right.
Nobody. Without going through the the proper
Okay,
channels.
here's his
and
whole answer.
committees.
So I interrupted Josh Greenstein here, so let me just reread this.
Go.
Why did you include that line? The line being, not only does Blake do that for herself, but she is a creative force and a total badass. So he says, because I was incredibly impressed that, especially seeing everything that she was doing in terms of the cut of the film and the marketing of the film, that her creativity, she took an okay campaign and elevated it. And that whole Lily Bloom's Flower Shop special shoot with her and the cast was all kind of her design, right? And it really helped the movie. Her pushing us to go screen the movie in full at Colleen's book event thing and having courage to do that, and where she wanted to just show a little snippet of and where we wanted to just show a little snippet of the movie. He continues, and that's what I remember. And I was really, really impressed because you rarely get that from partners, much less producers or actors. The attorney says, okay, can you read the next sentence beginning with her cut? You can read it out loud, please. After total badass. And Josh Greenstein reads his own text to Ryan Reynolds saying, her cut is better, no question. I have her back all the way. It would be agreement both you make movies. It would be agreement both you make movies at Sony, both of you to both of you. And he says, she says, you can stop, it's okay. He says, I'm a terrible speller and grammar. So there you have it, folks. If you are a terrible speller and you have terrible grammar, you too can be the president of Sony Motion Pictures Group. Okay, the attorney says, I'm sorry, I should have told you where to stop. I'm interested in your sentence where you said, her cut is better, no question. By her cut, you mean Sony's cut? He says, yeah. And you said, and she's reading, her cut is better, no question. I have her back all the way. The attorney says, why did you communicate this in the text message? He says, because there was a lot of back and forth between Wayfarer and them and us, and I believe that cut was a stronger cut. This next answer gets cut off.
And you know what's so cool about this is, like, in this outstanding deposition for Blake Lively, he talked about the greatness of the film being the only matter.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all he's saying. And it's just repetitive throughout. He's like, it was the best cut.
He's like, nobody at my level cares about a film by credit. They want the best film, the best version of the movie.
I just want to point out, like, who's saying what publicly then? Who the fuck is telling the world that Justin Baldoni had a better cut? Because it's not fucking Sony. Mm-hmm. It's not Blake fucking Lively. It's Wayfarer Studios, right?
It's not even Sony's analysts and marketers and their
whole
team. It's
nobody but their side. So it just shows you whose press is out there, who's pushing the narrative to the public, because it's not these guys. If it were Sony pushing the narrative, if it were Blake Lively pushing the public narrative, then we'd be bombarded with this kind of testimony, with these texts that we've never seen until the evidence came forward through the proper channels of discovery as they head to trial, not through some fucking wild PR campaign run by a bunch of fucking mad people, accompanied by a lawyer who I don't even know how he passed the bar.
Why are you getting
Brian Friedman?
Why are you getting so hyped?
I get excited.
Okay, but let me continue.
I'm Alan, man, bro. Always nearby.
Okay, so this is a single page. This is several pages later.
Okay.
The question is, let's scroll down to where Miss Lively says she spoke with Colleen. And she's reading this quote, she feels like I do, still full steam ahead with my cut. Do you see that? He says yes. Is that consistent with your view of what the next steps were with respect to the cut that Sony would release? He says yes, but I assume it was us working on that cut because I think there are a lot of things, just in terms of music and editing, not just the pure scores, but the vibe, certain scenes that both Blake and Colleen liked much more in this cut. Was it your decision to decide what cut to move forward with? And he said, ultimately, no. Whose decision was it? He says, Tom Rothman.
Tom Rothman, please come to the microphone.
You're gonna get him on the phone.
Let me get Tom Rothman's. Let me get him on chat.
Do you recall a time when Mr. Rothman made the decision?
He's the chairperson of Sony Entertainment Motion Picture Group.
Oh, so he just watches the movie and he's like, "Yep, that one's good."
He is very kind-looking soul.
Put it out in the theaters nationwide.
He looks very nice. He has he's got one of them like always smiling faces.
Oh yeah.
Seems to be one of those faces that are always like, even when he's like utterly mad, you're like, why are you smiling?
That's how you get the corner office right there.
71 years old.
Do you recall a time when Mr. Rothman made the decision which cut to move forward with? And he says, I don't.
Brown University.
Brown. Of course he's a Brown.
Told you,
oh
bro.
my God. It's like everybody in Hollywood went to Brown University. If you go to Brown University, you can go to Hollywood and get into.
It's a fucking club.
I know.
It is. I'm telling you, I know firsthand. It's a club because I knew one of the club members who told me it's a fucking club.
Yeah. Okay. 2 pages later, the question is, and how would you describe Miss Lively's receptivity to receiving notes from Sony? He says, open-minded.
Blake Lively.
Yeah.
Because it's a collaborative art form, people. I mean, that's what we do.
Are you aware of an event called Book Bonanza? He says, I believe so. And did Miss Lively go to Book Bonanza? And he says, is that the Colleen Hoover book event in Texas? And the attorney says, are you aware of a book event in Texas that occurred in June 2024? He says, yes, that's probably it. Okay, any idea whose idea it was for Miss Lively to attend Book Bonanza? Josh Greenstein says, I don't. It was either Colleen or Sony or one of the two. Ms. Gavrensky says, one of the two, Colleen or Sony. He says, Colleen being Miss Hoover. He says, yes.
They said it 3 times. The same answer.
What was the reaction from the audience of Book Bonanza to the film? He says, I believe it was incredibly well received. Question, what cut aired at Book Bonanza? Josh Greenstein says, I think an earlier cut of the Sony Blake version, I believe. I don't think it was the final film cut. Question, but it was the Sony cut as it existed at that date. He says, yes. But when you say the Sony or Blake cut, this is Josh Greenstein continuing to speak. He says, yes. But when you say the Sony or Blake cut, I do believe there was he says, there was still stuff from Justin's cut. I forget it was kind of a mix of things. The attorney says, so as Miss Lively was editing, there could be certain components of Mr. Baldoni's cut? And he says, yes. Based on the feedback that she was receiving from Sony or from the audience, okay, I guess she's clarifying. I'm sorry. The question was, so as Miss Lively was editing, there could be certain components of Mr. Baldoni's cut. He says, yes. She says, is that right? He says, yeah. She says, based on the feedback that she was receiving, and he says, I think so. She says, from Sony. He says, yeah, or from the audience. She says, or from the audience. See, I've been editing in real time, and I screwed that one up.
Careful.
Okay, so you've been handed what I've marked as Exhibit 22.
Before you go on with that one, I just want to add that, remember that Ange Giannetti, even though she was an absolute shitbag to Blake Lively and two-faced to like an embarrassing level, she also spoke extremely highly of Blake Lively's work ethic and process when Blake Lively ran the Sony cut.
Yes.
And the one thing that she pointed out that I think was the most important, it was Blake Lively's attention to audience feedback. That she took those questionnaires and got to work with them every fucking time.
Well, that's what they're talking about here.
Oh, good.
Do you recall receiving this email? He says, yes. Oh, yeah. Well, sorry, the question is, what is this email? He says, a reaction to Book Bonanza. What was the reaction? Josh Greenstein said, audiences loved it. They jumped to their feet in Blake's theater and screamed like, you've got it right. Colleen was moved. Great night. And that's kind of that's the dream when you're dealing with a very avid fan base. He continues, if that didn't go well, you're in big trouble. Question, do you recall describing it as lightning in a bottle? He says, I don't recall, but it sounds like something I'd say. Why is that? He says, I think I've just used that old-timey expression before. She says, I'm handing you what's marked as Exhibit 23.
Old-timey.
We're off AEO now. I'm so sorry. We can let Mr. Heath back in. This is really interesting. So in the deposition, she hands him Exhibit 22. And then it says in the transcript, the following portion of this transcript was designated as confidential. So I guess they kicked Jamie Heath out of the room. So now they're saying Jamie Heath can come back in.
They kicked him out of
for a confidential exhibit.
Really?
Yep. They asked him about something that was attorney's eyes only. So Jamie Heath was there and he had to bounce.
So Jamie Heath is there.
He got bounced. So Ms. Gavrensky says, oh, we're off AEO, which is attorney's eyes only now. I'm so sorry. We can let Mr. Heath back in. What is this email, Exhibit 23? He says, social reactions to It Ends With Us Book Bonanza panel and screening. Okay, and who's Michael Severson? Josh Greenstein says, I believe he worked in strategy and analytics for the marketing group. Question. And he wrote that the response from the online fan base has been outstanding, right? He says yes. Overwhelmingly positive? He says yes. And just a small amount of negativity? He said yeah. So as of this date, on June 17th, 2024, what was your recollection of the amount of negativity, if any, that you were seeing online about the film? He says, at this point, virtually zero. From the fans of Colleen Hoover's book.
Yeah, and Swifties at that point. Or is this... No, this isn't
No,
the
this was
trailer.
after Book Bonanza.
Right.
Question. At this point, what do you recall about whether you were seeing negativity online regarding Miss Lively? He said zero, none. This in reference to June 17th, 2024. Okay, I want to hand you what we'll mark as Exhibit 24. What is this email? He says, an email, it looks like, to me and Ange from Colleen Hoover. Do you recall receiving this? He said no. Okay, any reason to doubt that you received this from Miss Hoover? He said no. Okay, if you look at the first paragraph, she says, and she's reading this quote, this is Colleen Hoover saying, in no way do I want to deny support for this film, especially after being invited by Blake to have a small hand in seeing it through. I will say that I'm concerned about everything happening behind the screens and the, I wonder if that's a stenographer mistake. I will say that I'm concerned about everything happening behind the screens and the positions I've been put in, which is why...
This is Colleen Hoover?
Yes, okay. which is why I feel much more comfortable having this conversation over email. The attorney says, and then if you go down to the end of the second question, the fourth paragraph, she says, and she's reading this quote, as for the premiere, I'm honestly not comfortable with it anymore. The attorney says, what was your reaction to receiving the email from Miss Hoover telling you that she was not comfortable with the premiere anymore?
It's so dramatic, isn't it?
I know, my God. He says the premiere or... And the attorney clarifies, look, it says, as for the premiere. Josh Greenstein says, oh, I assume it was her talking about being in the middle of Justin and Blake's disagreements. Question, when you say Justin and Blake's disagreements, what do you mean? He said, whether it be the cut of the movie or, doing promotion or the press or the premiere, that stuff. Did you understand that the only disagreements were between Miss Lively and Mr. Baldoni? And Josh Greenstein said, no, I know Colleen had voiced disagreement with certain things. Question, and did you have any understanding of whether Miss Hoover was uncomfortable going to the premiere? Actually, strike that. Let's go to the next sentence. And she's reading this quote. Am I comfortable? Am I going to be comfortable if Justin is there? No. Things are beyond uncomfortable at this point.
Colleen Hoover.
Yes. She says, do you see that? He says, yes. Okay, so what was your understanding of what Miss Hoover was communicating there? Josh Greenstein says that she didn't want to be at the premiere with Justin. Question. So she would go to the premiere, just not if Justin was there, right? And he said, I don't know that she wouldn't go, but her email said that she'd be uncomfortable. Question. Did you have any idea why Miss Hoover would be uncomfortable? And he says, I just assumed that whatever stuff that was going on between all of them, that, I wasn't on those calls or conversations, so. Question. So you didn't have any understanding of why Miss Hoover would be...
Was there an objection there? There must have been.
No.
Really?
Question. So you didn't have any understanding of why Miss Hoover would be uncomfortable being around Mr. Baldoni? And he says, I understood that they had some. She would have felt very put off in terms of involvement in the film. And that she had some real issues. So I didn't really talk to her that much about those specifically. I didn't have that much communication with her. The attorney continues reading. She says, she writes, in quotes, can I promise I'll go if he, meaning Mr. Baldoni, and his team are all there? I can't promise that. I go back and forth every day between continuing to show up for this movie or going into hiding because it's all causing me anxiety and bringing attention that I'm not prepared for or used to.
What sucks is that she would later be diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Stress is a fucking killer, bro. And there was a lot of it going on. This is the other thing that this guy keeps bringing to the table, this Justin Baldoni character. Huh? This Baldoni guy.
Yeah, he's blaming Colleen Hoover for putting him in the hospital with a spinal infection.
Yeah, and he's
even
the one
though it was
infecting...
like just weeks after he had gone to Cabo and got a spinal injections, So it's obviously not her. Question, did you have any idea about the anxiety that Ms. Hoover was experiencing in connection with It Ends With Us? He says, yeah, I don't know if at that point they started to be very close to open. A lot of online chatter about the campaign and about how it wasn't reflective enough of the book or the abuse, or which kind of, I think, made her uncomfortable.
Especially because, you just have the reaction coming from Colleen Hoover fans at this event as
That was
absolutely
positive.
fucking outstanding and positive.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a bias there because it's, you bring, it's like you could probably fill an audience up and watch, like, make them watch, like, I don't know, Kevin Connolly's Gotti, which is
director's cut.
considered one of the worst movies ever made. But then, like, and everybody watch it, be like, oh my God. And then bring out John Travolta.
Yeah.
And just watch how many people. It was pretty good. You're amazing.
That's amazing.
Because
That's true.
So there's that factor that you have to bring into play
true.
here.
That's true. She entertained the crowd.
For sure. I mean, she's a big deal. She went to every single theater because they played it in multiple theaters, and she went to every single theater.
Dude, she made Wayfair so much fucking money.
Unbelievable. They
weren't paying her for that.
She's brilliant, bro.
Okay, question. Did you have any understanding of why that was directed towards Mr. Baldoni and his team as opposed to Miss Lively? The comment about anxiety from Colleen Hoover.
Yeah.
He said, I assume she had issues with them, with Mr. Baldoni and his team. The attorney says, and Miss Hoover says, and she's reading this quote, in a perfect world, we'd set it all aside and everyone could smile for the cameras. But feelings have been hurt and boundaries have been crossed. Do you understand any of what Miss Hoover meant when she wrote boundaries have been crossed? Josh Greenstein says, I can only assume that she felt that in her interactions, some boundaries have been crossed. I can't really expound on that. Do you have any understanding of why Miss Hoover didn't want to be smiling for the cameras with Mr. Baldoni? And he says she obviously had issues with him. Did you have any understanding of why any other members of the cast, strike that, do you have any understanding of whether any other members of the cast did not want to be smiling in pictures for the cameras with Mr. Baldoni at the premiere? Josh Greenstein says, I was told Jenny Slate and Brandon didn't want to be in the picture with him. Can you describe what you understand with respect to Miss Slate and Mr. Sklenar? Sorry, strike that. Bless you. Many blessings. Can you please describe what you understand, any hesitations with respect to Miss from, oh my gosh, the attorney says. Oh my gosh. Why can't I get this question out? Strike that. Tell me,
like back in law school,
Meryl. She's classic Meryl.
Come on, Meryl. Did you know that she was apparently, according to something I read about her, that she was really like the pivotal force behind getting the $400 million lawsuit kicked out?
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, she was. She wrote. I mean, she was the main author.
Take your time, Miss Gavrensky.
She's a badass. She's also been involved with Blake Lively for a very long time.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or longer than this, at least.
She tries again. Tell me about what you were told about Miss Slate and Mr. Sklenar attending the premiere. Josh Greenstein says, I believe someone in my publicity team said that they weren't comfortable going if Justin and the Wayfarer team were there. And that's kind of the broad strokes of what I remember. Question, did you ask why? He says, yeah, and it was stuff that happened on set, and I didn't know the specifics. And at that point, I think I was just trying to get the movie launched without having some kind of publicity problem around it. Question, so at that point, Miss Lively still had not told you any details about what about occurred on the set. He says, no, I think she said at one point, I'm specifically will not tell you details. Question, she said she specifically would not tell you details. He said, yeah. And I think it was as much for me as it was for her that she didn't want to involve me in that specificity. See how everybody's being really fucking professional? She's not talking shit. She's not even getting him involved. She's like, you know what? We're going to handle this. It just bubbled up.
She also knows, this is a part of what experience brings you.
Yeah.
She knows that they don't want to fucking hear it.
Yeah. Sony.
Like,
she already asked.
It's like, I'm a busy guy.
She already asked Ange, and she got completely punted.
Yeah, she got froze out.
Yeah. So she's like, okay, well, Sony's not going to help me, so I don't
exactly.
Need to bother
Then she moved on. She ended up rallying up her own side of the story, her own side of resources, and move forward with that.
Question, did Miss Lively ever tell you that she would not promote the movie at all if you did not release the Sony cut? And he said she said she'd be uncomfortable promoting the movie. I don't recall her ever threatening not to, absolutely not, but I think I was definitely worried about that possibility. And again, very common occurrence in our business. If an artist isn't comfortable with what's on screen, they have the right not to promote.
That's right.
For anybody looking at this is page 161. I feel like that's a really important testimony. Josh Greenstein.
It's critical testimony.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
And again, very common occurrence in our business. If an artist isn't comfortable with what's on screen, they have the right not to promote.
That's amazing. I didn't know that was true. I thought they would have a contractual obligation because
thought so too.
they're being paid millions of fucking dollars.
Yeah, right.
If you don't have Blake Lively showing up at the premiere, if you don't have Blake Lively
that
supporting the movie,
every
it
actor
is dead.
That means that every actor who just doesn't want to do promo can be like, I don't like how it turned out. So
Like
I'm out.
Leo fucking basically signed the death sentence for our movie Don's Plum because he refused to promote it.
Next question. Can you discuss a little bit about that? The right not to promote if you're not comfortable with what's on the screen? Josh Greenstein, whatever. I mean, if, there are some contracts that have contractual language where stars give 2 weeks promotion, right? But if someone doesn't, most of the time there's not that provision. But if someone doesn't want to promote something, it would be really impossible to make them.
Okay, so there isn't usually this provision.
You wouldn't want to do that. And for many reasons. One, you can't force someone to do what they don't want to do. And two, if you're not excited about it, what's going to come across in the promotion of the film? Question. So it's common for stars to want to embrace a film before they agree to promote it? And Josh Greenstein, this gets cut off. He says, I would say it helps a great.
Yeah, so it helps a great deal. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if the star hates the movie, they're like, go see. I mean, they still do it. There's how many bad movies have you seen where the star was like saying, I love it, and then now now stars come out like 10 years, 20 years later, or whatever, and they're like, oh, maybe not my shining moment or whatever. It's pretty interesting, actually.
So I'm going to stop here, and then we will finish this tomorrow.
Okay.
Because this is almost done.
Let's
I have
see.
Like 20 pages left.
So glad that Nadine showed up today. It was
yeah.
so good to see her in the chat. Reminds me of the old days. Let's see. A scientist. Also, just from a marketing perspective, the difference between cuts in the target audience was negligible, but Lively scored better with the other audiences. So it would bring in a wider audience. Yeah. Well, look, I looked, they tried to convince, and they were able to convince pro Baldoni fans that the metric that mattered the most was, was the target demo, and there's just more to it than that. Mm-hmm. And, but the gold is definitely recommend, that is the statistic on which they hang their money.
A scientist said, I repeat my wish for Blake Lively to produce and direct a movie that has an actress pull off a heist with her co-stars to steal a movie from a studio. And then Phil Baumling said, season 3 of The Studio with Seth Rogen.
It is, yeah. I wonder if Seth Rogen is playing this Tom Rothman guy. Because, yeah. They kind of like have a similar look. And, certainly Rogen knows him. Didn't Sony put out that, what it was called, The Interview?
Yes.
Who distributed?
I can't remember if it was Sony, but that was he Seth Rogen talks about how that was a super fucking weird time in his life.
I guess so.
Blowback.
That movie should have never been Sony. Sony put that out. I thought it was too. God, I know more than I think I know, I tell you. Mm-hmm. I tell you.
A scientist said, also just from a marketing perspective, the difference between the cuts in the target audience was negligible, but Lively's scored better with other audiences, so would bring in a wider audience. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's generally correct.
The whole time that I've seen people want to pick over these graphs of the test scores.
Yeah.
The entire time I'm like, you're only looking at this. Nobody gives a fuck about this. You're only looking at this because Justin Baldoni could not accept that he lost a creative dispute with his studio that he took a bunch of money from. Like, bro, if you don't want to lose creative disputes with a major studio, then just be a fucking independent filmmaker and don't work with them. Just sell your movie at the fucking market.
They weren't ready to learn,
I know.
I'll tell you that the recommend C is the most important one, because with the recommend C, if you have a lower reaction score, like in the demo. So if your demo is like, say your demo is coming in at like 77% and you're shooting for 90. Nobody's shooting for 90, but let's pretend, I mean, if you get it, you get it. But, 90 is ridiculous. But let's just say, just for the sake of this conversation, you're scoring at 77 and you're shooting for 90 on excellent and good or whatever, or great in terms of the quality of the picture. But your score, so if your demo is lower, 77, you want it higher, but you've got a high recommend C, you got a higher than expected, we'll call it. So say you were shooting for a recommend C of 70, and you were shooting for a 90, like they were saying in those top two categories, right? So, or whatever, just building a hypothetical scenario. The recommend C is the one that matters most because it's what drives the audience. It's what drives, word of mouth is what drives this business, always has. It's, marketing pushes for that word of mouth to happen. And then the marketing will grab onto the narrative of the popular culture, but it's all about the recommend C in terms of it driving the numbers going forward in a weekend. So you're going to take a negligible loss on these other metrics if the one that you need the most, which is recommend C, is doing well. So if Blake Lively were to have a cut, hypothetically, where those numbers were relatively low compared to the recommend C, but the recommend C was way high, there'd be a good chance Sony would want to go with the recommend C and change the approach to adjust to a stronger demo. And the other thing that Blake Lively did definitely do in her scores when I looked them over, it was a long time ago, but she was scoring higher in other demos.
Yeah, it was
bleeding into a wider audience. If that's what you're talking about, then that when you have the higher recommend C, and then you've got this new sort of audience demo that wasn't there in prior cuts, you're going to be rubbing your hands together pretty vigorously.
Phil Baumling said, imagine being Baldoni and his buddies thinking that they could run over this blonde actress they completely underestimated, only to watch her outperform Baldoni in every way, shape, and form. LOL.
And then she's going to whoop his ass in a courtroom. And, and they hit the audacity to do things like throw his best friend between her legs.
Oh my God.
They have the audacity to insist on going into a trailer where she was undressed, in a state of undress.
Splishness said, that's literally the whole thing here. She did his job better, and he cannot fucking stand it.
That is exactly the problem that they face.
That's exactly
that he
what
was
happened.
faced. And this is why I keep pointing to narcissism or some kind of similar disorder with him.
Yeah, because
the
it's
objective,
an ego
the
wounding.
The objective is the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a flying fuck. If I make a movie tomorrow, I don't give a flying fuck about me at all, ever. It's kind of my problem, really, in part at least. But, once you have your deal in place and you're just going to go do the job, the only objective has to be the product. Why are we here? But he's there for self-accolade. He's there for self-aggrandization. I don't know. He's there to promote himself, to elevate himself, to become the center of attention and the greatest director that ever lived. And the reality is that he's like a fucking studio guy who's working on a second picture.
Yeah, well,
it's not even an original. It's not even an original idea.
And he obviously doesn't know how to work with people.
Fucking Pac-Man.
Splishness said, maybe Sony should have gone to Baldoni and reminded him whose money this was.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Sarowitz.
It's such a grotesque. It's such a fucking rich person thing to say. You look at your parents.
It is
remember
grotesque.
When your parents would guilt you about like how much you cost? Did that ever happen to you?
Yes.
I got that too.
My parents.
I was like,
no, not both my parents. I had one parent that used to always throw money in my face. It's one of the reasons why I have an issue with it. I'm weird about money. I'm not comfortable. And it's because like when people use it to punish people. So Sarowitz doing this all the time, like, oh, you have a disagreement with somebody or somebody's in some sort of conflict with you. You think you can just throw money at the problem? You think you can intimidate somebody with money? Well, now he's met somebody who's rich. So
he's just one of those
work.
dads who's like going to be like, you know how much you cost?
Yeah, like as if
mean?
that's your fucking responsibility to care about. Yeah.
The kid's sitting there making absolutely no financial decisions for the family.
Yeah, exactly.
Except asking for shit that they want because that's what kids do is they go, hey, can I have this? Can I do that? Fucking idiots.
Hinata said, Josh Greenstein is basically confirming everything Dale Wheatley said.
Correct. almost note for note, right? Like I basically hit it note for note. And it's not hard because the studio system is well known to anybody who's worked in Hollywood. And this is the thing about Justin Baldoni is that he didn't know it. I have mentors that were in the studio system. So I pushed against all this shit. I thought directors got the cuts. Think I didn't think that? Of course I fucking did. But I learned real quickly that they didn't. And it was devastating, by the way. It was devastating. So yeah, I mean.
Yeah, there's a whole fucking, there's like an overflowing fucking graveyard of directors in Hollywood who lost creative disputes to the studio.
No, it's just
pissed about it.
And there's also a large contingency of those who lost their fucking minds in the process.
Yeah.
And I always bring up Tony Kaye for American History X, but if you actually took the time and actually looked into this shit.
Because he went off the deep end,
like
bro.
Tony Kaye open letters were just insane. Let's see if I can just find one before we go. Tony Kaye. Open letter to, who should I do? Should I do, what's his name? Ed Norton?
Okay.
Ed Norton. Tony Kaye did not publish a single open letter in a traditional sense, but rather waged a public campaign against Edward Norton and New Line Cinema in 1996 and 1999, which included taking over the 35 to 40 page full ads. He took out over 35 to 40 full page ads in Variety and The Hollywood Reporter to criticize the actor and the studio over the final cut of American History X.
You know,
And there's a good example of it because
Baldoni
I
should have
forgot
just
that it
done
was
this.
Edward Norton who was like, this cut's all wrong.
Yeah.
And it was the actor. It's the exact same scenario.
Amazing.
And in this scenario, Tony Kaye, by the way, you know what happened with Tony Kaye was that he got corrected. In other words, the studio was like, you just bought 35 full page ads costing you tens of thousands of dollars and you got nothing for it. Yeah. Shut up and go away.
Yeah.
The movie went on to do brilliant.
Oh, it was massive.
Critically, box office, all of it. And Tony Kaye still, even though he damaged himself quite substantially in that moment, he still went on to, he kept directing. He still directs.
Yeah, so this
to
is the
day.
thing, is like somebody who's not totally, like, I don't know what Baldoni's problem is, but there's a lot of conflicts like this that happen every single day in Hollywood, and people do not lose their minds and go, you know, trying to destroy other people's reputation. I mean, I don't know, maybe they do. Maybe they do. Maybe they do, and they just don't get sued like this, like Blake Lively is doing, because I love how she was just like, oh, motherfucker, we're going to correct this. You know?
I love
that for her. She's going to prevail, and it's going to be wonderful.
Listen, and by the way, Brian Friedman basically said, yeah, this is going to trial. And I'm fucking excited for that.
Yeah, he says he's
in
looking
part for the
forward to
podcast
it.
because we've worked hard.
Brian Friedman said he's looking forward to it. And I'm like, I bet you want to keep getting paid your rate from these people, money bags.
Tony Kaye spent roughly around $100,000 fucking dollars
Complaining
complaining
to Hollywood.
I was there when it was happening. I was reading the ads on a daily basis. I couldn't believe it. It was the talk of Hollywood. But there was a great situation where that director went absolutely fucking apeshit crazy over his so-called vision, and the studio was like, "Fuck off! Mm-hmm. It doesn't work. The cut doesn't work, bud.
We have to go.
We gotta go. You guys are fucking amazing. I hope you guys will join us again tomorrow. We're gonna finish this, and we're gonna talk more about whatever the fuck happens. Hope no one dies because I'm really tired of that. I hope you are too. All right, you guys. See you tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.